Chapter 1. Konoha Village, Training Ground 98. This training ground is not very far from the Uchiha family field. In the training ground, hoo. Heavy breathing sounded in the silent training ground. On the training ground, a vigorous figure shuttled through it. The boy is about 9 years old, with a strong expression and handsome appearance. He is wearing clothes with the logo of the Uchiha family flame fan. He is running with a weight of 50 kilograms on his legs. But Uchiha Kyosuke didn't seem to notice. The speed is fast, and he still runs forward, as if he does not completely drain his body and does not give up. Finally, ding, the system prompts. The daily task is 5,000 positive punches, 5,000 deep squats, and 20 kilometers of cross-country with a 50 kilograms load. The task is completed. Get quest reward, 5 quest points, a crisp voice resounded in Uchiha Kyosuke's mind. Hearing the sound of mission completion in his head, Uchiha Kyosuke was finally relieved. Uchiha Kyosuke, because of an accident, crossed into the Hokage ninja world and became the younger brother of the Uchiha family patriarch Uchiha Fugaku. In this Hokage world dominated by ninjutsu and chakra, Uchiha Kyosuke did not choose to practice chakra and ninjutsu, but chose a more unpopular way, gymnastics. Although his ninjutsu training talent is very good, he never lacks resources. For this reason, his current cheap brother, Uchiha Fugaku, persuaded him to focus on practicing ninjutsu more than once. But Uchiha Kyosuke has ideas of his own. At this point, Uchiha Kyosuke turned on the system. As a result, a system interface that can only be seen by himself appeared in front of him. Host. Uchiha Kyosuke abilities. 3 body technique, beginner. Konoha fluid technique, skilled. Paper arts, grandmaster. Iron body, grandmaster. Tempest kick, skilled. Flowing water rock shattering fist, skilled. Permanent buff. Soul of Taishu. Taishu training gains increase by 1000%. Mission points, 470 points. Current main quest. Graduate from ninja school and become a genin. Quest reward, entry-level armament haki. Daily tasks, 5,000 positive punches, 5,000 deep squats, and 50 kilograms to run 20 kilometers. Mission reward, 5 mission points. Note. Ability proficiency division. Entry, proficient, grandmaster, master, ultimate, beyond. That's right, Uchiha Kyosuke, who is a transmigrator. How could he not have cheat? If he does not develop such a good cheat and instead learns ninjutsu, then he is a fool, although his ninjutsu talent is also very good. Especially the permanent buff, Soul of Taishu. The training income of Taishu is increased by 1000%. Powerful pervert. Now, looking at his system interface, Uchiha Kyosuke couldn't help frowning and mutter to himself. The quest points are 470 points, and it's far from enough to collect 1,000 quest points for the lottery. Every time the system accumulates 1,000 mission points, a lottery draw is allowed. Some of his abilities are obtained through lottery, such as paper arts, iron body, as well as tempest kick, Lyashian shattering fist. Shaking his head, Uchiha Kyosuke thinks it's better to let the flow take its course and not think about it too much. Forget it, let's accumulate it slowly. You have to go back quickly, or you will have to be told by that chattering old brother again. After the daily quest, Kyosuke walked towards the Uchiha family domain. Domain of the Uchiha family, the patriarch's house. It must be said that the home of the Uchiha patriarch occupies a large area, and the construction is also exquisite and grand. At this time, Uchiha Kyosuke opened the door with some trepidation. Hope you don't bump into that panel face. But it still obeys Murphy's Law. If there is a chance that things will go bad, no matter how small the chance, it will always happen. It really means that if you are afraid, you will come. Squeak. When the door opened, Uchiha Kyosuke saw the front, and his heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, it was the familiar panel, with a stern face. It's not good to stay at home early in the morning and wander around. As the younger brother of the Uchiha family patriarch, isn't your face shameful enough? Uchiha Fugaku stood straight at the gate, staring at Uchiha Kyosuke, who was about to enter, expressionless. Ahaha, it turns out that you got up so early, brother. Being caught by his own brother, Uchiha Kyosuke was a little embarrassed. Isn't it going to be a graduation assessment today? I was so nervous last night that I couldn't sleep. I didn't finally stay up until dawn and went outside for activities. Now what Uchiha Kyosuke is talking about is the kind of blushing and heartbeat that can blurt out a lie without a draft. Chapter 2. Insomnia? Who would go to the training ground to toss with oneself every day when they have insomnia? Uchiha Fugaku still had a stiff, expressionless face. Uchiha Kyosuke was stunned when he heard this, not knowing how to answer. He was also a little speechless. This old brother, his feelings are that he stared at him for a long time to go out and only caught himself when he came home. Uchiha Kyosuke stopped pretending and said to Uchiha Fugaku with a cheeky smile, "Brother, don't be angry. I just ran a few steps outside." Hearing this, Uchiha Fugaku sighed and looked at Uchiha Kyosuke with some complicated eyes. For his own younger brother, he was really helpless. Beating, reluctant, scolding, useless. The family members of the Uchiha clan possess the famous bloodline of the ninja world, Sharingan, and they are even better at fire-style ninjutsu and Sharingan pupil jutsu, even if you look at the entire ninja world, which Ninja Tribe does not envy. However, he, the patriarch's younger brother, has become an outlier in the entire Uchiha family. That's right, Uchiha Kyosuke. Putting on a good blood-based Sharingan and a good fire-style ninjutsu training talent, he does not practice and develop, but is crazy and obsessed with Taijutsu. Gymnastics. Taijutsu is a taijutsu that cannot be ranked in the Hall of Elegance in the face of the powerful and mainstream ninjutsu in today's ninja world. The younger brother of the Uchiha family patriarch, Uchiha Kyosuke, pursued taijutsu frantically, which once became a joke in the entire Konoha village. Fortunately, Uchiha Kyosuke is covered by a patriarch brother, and the entire proud Uchiha family is the one who dares to speak out against Uchiha Kyosuke's absurd and humiliating behavior. Ugh. Uchiha Fugaku sighed and looked at his younger brother, who is also the only closest relative to him in this world. All kinds of complicated colors flashed in his eyes. There is doting, distressing. There are also those who hate that iron is not steel. During the Second World War of the ninja world, the parents of the two brothers Uchiha Fugaku were tragically killed on the battlefield. Uchiha Fugaku, who was only 18 or 19 at that time, not only had to take on the responsibility of raising his younger brother, but also became the head of the Uchiha family and took over the heavy responsibility of the Uchiha family. What's more, he is also serving as the chief of Konoha police force. The elder brother is like a father. Therefore, the relationship between the two brothers is invaluable in this troubled ninja world. Kyosuke, your ninjutsu talent is no worse than mine. So why can't you focus on ninjutsu? Speaking of which, Uchiha Fugaku looked at Uchiha Kyosuke with a look of hatred. Uchiha Fugaku, the head of the Uchiha clan, is undoubtedly very talented in ninjutsu, and his younger brother, Uchiha Kyosuke's ninjutsu talent is naturally not bad, even better than his own brother. But Uchiha Kyosuke has always been obsessed with practicing taijutsu. Forehead. For a moment, Uchiha Kyosuke didn't know how to choose his words to answer. Could he directly attack his cheap brother and say, "Brother, don't underestimate physique. Physique is awesome, okay? Did you know that in the Fourth War of the Ninja World, Madara, the most powerful man in our family, was beaten by the Emperor Guy of the 8 Inner Gates, and he was completely powerless. And the king of Taijutsu, King Guy, almost ended the Fourth World War of Ninjas. Uchiha Kyosuke, can he answer like this? Cannot." Just as Uchiha Kyosuke was thinking about how to answer his brother's words, Uchiha Fugaku continued to teach painstakingly. "Kyosuke, you have to know that there is a limit to taijutsu, but there is no limit to ninjutsu. You should focus more on ninjutsu, especially fire style." Uchiha Kyosuke. Uchiha Kyosuke was completely speechless, not knowing what to say. This is said, not only is the disadvantage of his own age, but the weight of his speech is naturally slight. It is more that the mainstream of the ninja world today is ninjutsu and taijutsu, as a side street, after all, can't make it into the Hall of Elegance. Hi. That being the case, Uchiha Kyosuke decided to live the mud as always, making the big things small and the small things great. It's business as usual. Just deal with his nagging cheap old man and you're done. Don't worry, brother. I will study ninjutsu seriously in the future. As he said that, Uchiha Kyosuke walked into the gate with strides. And muddy tactics, success. Looking at the back of Uchiha Kyosuke, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't help but be in a trance. Time flies so fast, and before you know it, this younger brother, who was raised by him, is already 9 years old. I'm about to graduate from ninja school. Chapter 3. Over the years, whenever Uchiha Fugaku mentioned to Kyosuke that he should focus on practicing ninjutsu, Kyosuke just pushed him around in perfunctory. At that time, Uchiha Fugaku was also helpless, and in addition to pampering Kyosuke, he was free to Kyosuke's wishes. Fugaku thought that it might be all right in the future, and Kyosuke would eventually realize that choosing to practice taijutsu was extremely wrong. However, Uchiha Fugaku was far from thinking that Kyosuke not only did not want to repent, but stubbornly went further and further on the road of taijutsu, and even went out of control. So, Fugaku, he was a little restless. Furthermore, with the current situation in the ninja world, it is very tense and not optimistic, and the war is very likely to be provoked again at any time. And those people in the village, the differences and contradictions about their Uchiha clan are getting bigger and bigger. In this world, being weak is the original sin. As the eldest brother of Kyosuke, the eldest brother is like a father. He may protect him for a while, but he cannot protect Kyosuke forever. After all, Uchiha Fugaku, as the patriarch of the Uchiha clan, is busy with official business, and it is impossible to take care of Kyosuke at all times. Besides, if the ninja world war really breaks out, and the time comes to go to the battlefield, the cruelty of the battlefield will result in, it's bound to be miserable. Their biological parents are a living example, leaving their lives on the battlefield forever. Therefore, there are some things that Fugaku can't bear to let his younger brother continue to do whatever he wants. So, Uchiha Fugaku decided to be ruthless this time, and no longer let Kyosuke fool him, let Kyosuke play with his own temperament. Kyosuke. Uchiha Fugaku stopped Uchiha Kyosuke, who was going in. Well, is there anything else? Brother, I will definitely study ninjutsu seriously in the future, so you can rest assured. Uchiha Kyosuke responded impatiently. Let's make a bet. Uchiha Fugaku said solemnly. Bet? Uchiha Kyosuke was a little strange after hearing it, and he had to say that this sentence successfully caught his attention. Brother, what bet? Uchiha Fugaku took great pains for this stubborn little brother. Kyosuke, if you succeed at the level that I want, then your practice of Taijutsu, I have no objection. Don't you object to majoring in gymnastics? Hearing this sentence, Uchiha Jing couldn't help but raise his brows a few times. Is there such a good thing? Isn't this exactly what you want? It also saves me, my cheap old brother, constantly nagging myself, which is very annoying. Uchiha Kyosuke turned around and said to his cheap brother with an excited smile on his face. Brother, this is what you said. Don't go back on it? Okay, brother. What do you want me to do? Seeing the excited expression on Uchiha Kyosuke's face, Uchiha Fugaku, whose face was already stern, became even more unhappy and stiffened. Since you're not so keen on physique, then prove it to me. Proof? How to prove? Looking at the face of Uchiha Fugaku, Uchiha Kyosuke has long since seen that it is no wonder. Usually this cheap old brother is like this, and he is used to his sullen face every day. Today is the graduation day of the ninja school, right? After Uchiha Fugaku finished speaking, he thought and calculated for a while. That's right. Uchiha Kyosuke nodded. Graduating from the ninja school, this is what he has been looking forward to for a long time. After all, he currently has a main mission, to graduate from the ninja school and become a genin. After completing this main quest, get the entry-level Armament Haki. Armament Haki, although it is entry-level, it is undoubtedly awesome. Uchiha Kyosuke believes that as long as he gets that Armament Haki, then his strength, that will take it to the next level. Uchiha Fugaku, who was measuring in his heart, raised his attitude and said to Uchiha Kyosuke, Since Kyosuke, you are so obsessed with Taijutsu, then you have to prove it to me. If you get the first place in today's graduation test, I will allow you to continue cultivating Taijutsu in the future, and I will never stop you. Otherwise, Kyosuke, go and practice ninjutsu for me. After Uchiha Fugaku finished speaking, he stared at Uchiha Kyosuke closely. He also made this decision based on, although his younger brother's strength is not at the end of the crane in the school, his grades are also SOSO, and his strength is barely average. In fact, it is Uchiha Kyosuke who is too lazy to care about it. But Kyosuke is definitely not good, Uchiha Fugaku thinks. So, Chapter 4. Moreover, Uchiha Fugaku also knew that there were many outstanding talents who graduated in the same year as Kyosuke this year. Among them, there are students with excellent comprehensive ability in all aspects, who do not know the mystery of fire, and are completely similar. Also, the Konoha Moonlight clan, who is good at Konoha-ryu swordsmanship, is the Moonlight Gale in the Moonlight family. And, now the son of 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, Sarutobi Asuma. Therefore, Uchiha Fugaku knew that it was absolutely impossible for Kyosuke to win the first place in this year's ninja school graduation actual combat assessment. In fact, Uchiha Fugaku also wants to use this year's actual combat assessment to let the stubborn Kyosuke deeply realize how big the gap between him and the geniuses of the same age is. Sense of shame and then courage. Only in this way will it be possible for Kyosuke to wake up and stop being so obsessed with the physique that is not elegant. Won the first place in this actual combat assessment? Hearing this, Uchiha Kyosuke was slightly startled. That's it? Before, He was thinking of doing it by paddling in the actual graduation assessment. After all, the actual graduation assessment will not affect his graduation. Kyosuke also wants to keep a low profile in the village and pretend to be a pig and eat a tiger. But since his cheap brother said so, Kyosuke, that really needs to show a little bit in this graduation practical assessment. Before Kyosuke could reply to his cheap brother, a clear voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Ding! Host triggers side quests. 3 years without a sound. A blockbuster. Side quest. Get the first place in the actual combat assessment for graduation and prove to Uchiha Fugaku that Taijutsu is yyds. Mission reward. 500 mission points. Actually touched the side quest. And when Uchiha Kyosuke saw the reward for this quest, he immediately became hot. This is a full 500 quest points. If you only rely on daily tasks, you have to like 100 days to accumulate the full 500 task points. This wave can make money. Blood earned. Just when Uchiha Kyosuke was stunned, he was stunned by the attractive system quest reward points. Uchiha Fugaku, who was on the side, saw Kyosuke's appearance like a frightened fool. He thought that Kyosuke felt a lot of difficulty in the bet he made, and was tangled that he was hesitant to agree. Therefore, Fugaku felt that at this time, he had to take up the attitude that he should have as a brother. Unable to help, Uchiha Fugaku stiffened his old, stinky face even more. This matter is so decided. There is no negotiation. If you don't dare to agree, then Kyosuke, you will let me practice ninjutsu honestly in the future. Don't be obsessed with these sidelines. Ah, brother. Isn't it difficult for you to be strong? Uchiha Kyosuke held his head and scratched his hair, which made people feel crazy. It's really impossible. Then, Uchiha Kyosuke changed his words again. But, the first place in the graduation practice assessment competition? Haha, okay. I've got it. This sudden turn made his cheap brother Fugaku a little overwhelmed. On the blunt panel, it seemed a little stunned. Okay, bro, let's talk about it first. If I get the first place in the graduation practice assessment, in the future I will practice physical skills. You don't have to talk about it. It's all settled. It's gone. Also, remember to come on time for today's graduation practice assessment. Otherwise, it's a pity that I won't be able to see my style on the field. After speaking, Uchiha Kyosuke waved his hand, turned around and walked into the front yard with small steps. Only Uchiha Fugaku, who was still a little confused, was left. Kyosuke, this promised? Although everything was going according to his plan, why did he vaguely feel something was wrong? Is it an illusion? Or are you thinking too much? Uchiha Fugaku shook his head without thinking about it, turned around, walked out the door, and left. As the patriarch of Uchiha, he also serves as the head of the Konoha police force, and he still has a lot to deal with. As for today's graduation practice assessment, it's not too late to take the time to go again. After returning home, Uchiha Kyosuke went directly to the bathhouse to take a bath. After coming out, he lay down on the bed and rested. I woke up this morning to exercise and do daily tasks, and I was so tired that I would go to that slightly boring ninja school later. Oops, what a hassle. After graduating from ninja school, I would feel much more comfortable with salted fish. Ring ling ling. The urgent alarm bell rang in the early morning. In the end, at the urging of the inexhaustible, Uchiha Kyosuke got up and yawned. It's really annoying. Squinting his drowsy eyes that never got enough sleep, after a simple combing, he walked directly toward the ninja school with a trembling step that he did not recognize. Kyosuke-kun, let's go to school after breakfast. Mikoto couldn't help reminding Kyosuke, who left without breakfast. Mikoto-san, I can do whatever I want on the way. Although Mikoto-san makes breakfast at home, Kyosuke seldom eats it because of the trouble. However, someone in the school will prepare it for them, so don't worry about it. Uchiha narrowed his sleepy eyes, and finally came to his own class before the bell rang. Looking up at random, they are still familiar faces. After all, they have been together for a few years, and they are all too familiar. With a small steel toothpick in his mouth, Shiranui Shinjian. The one who looked a little rebellious was the current third Hokage's son, Sarutobi Asuma. The one in the weird green one-piece sports suit, Uchiha Kyosuke remembers that the man is the awesome character in the original book, the guy who beat his ancestor Madara in the Fourth Ninja World War. However, it's still a low pressure now, and there may be some problems with graduation. The rest are just passers-by. Chapter 5. As soon as Uchiha Kyosuke entered this class, his handsome and unrestrained appearance with a relaxed look immediately attracted the attention of the whole class. Some people are born with an extraordinary temperament. I have to say that the Uchiha family's genes, both in terms of bloodline boundaries and appearance, are still quite excellent. And Uchiha Kyosuke is relatively famous in this class. Not only because he is the younger brother of the Uchiha patriarch, he is a different kind of Uchiha, and he persistently chooses to practice the physique that no one is optimistic about. It's Uchiha Kyosuke's handsome appearance that appeals to little girls, and his personality is easy to get along with, and he doesn't have the arrogance of being a Uchiha family at all. Because of this, those in the class are all envious of Kyosuke's abominable beauty relationship, but Uchiha Kyosuke didn't think too much about it, and went straight to the unique position that everyone in his class envied. Kyosuke-kun, you're late again today. As soon as Kyosuke sat down in his seat, a soft and gentle voice peculiar to a little girl came from the side. Red Yuhi, with long black hair and a shawl, a cute little face that is white and flawless, and those beautiful eyes that shine like ruby like charming brilliance. People are fascinated and loved, but at this time she seems a little shy and quiet, with a soft face. She looked at the table mate who was standing beside her. Hee, Red. Needless to say, Kyosuke-kun must be lying in bed again and not wanting to get up. I really envy Kyosuke-kun who can sleep in bed. Kyosuke's other table mate, Yuan Yilin, looked at Kyosuke with big watery eyes and smiled while covering his mouth. This is a cute girl with short chestnut hair, with a row of white and lovely teeth. A small white round face with lovely oil paint on both sides, and big watery eyes, with the unique innocence and kindness of this age and agility. Uchiha Kyosuke waved his hand helplessly. He is really sleepy and hungry now, and he doesn't have much time to joke with these two little girls. If this is to be changed, they must respond well and fight back to let them know how serious the consequences of teasing Uchiha Kyosuke are. Hong Xiaolin, don't make fun of me. By the way, the parents of the two little beauties, what delicious food did you prepare for me this morning? Why don't you hurry up and present it? Uchiha Jing looked at the two women with a serious face. Little Beauty's food and clothing parents? Hong Yuhi and Rin Yuanyi were a little embarrassed and a little embarrassed. Then, they bowed their heads silently in tacit understanding, and then took out an exquisite bento from their backpacks and put it on the table. In fact, on a few mornings long ago, Uchiha Kyosuke, who was hungry and dizzy with physical training and no breakfast, came to school in a tragic state, looking very miserable. Seeing Kyosuke's pitiful appearance, the kind-hearted Harano Rin and Yuhi Hong gave the bento they brought to Kyosuke kindly. Afterwards, Rin Harano and Hong Yuhi realized how serious the consequences of their act of kindness were. At that time, Uchiha Kyosuke was almost starving. After taking the bento brought by Harano Rin and Yuhika, Kyosuke became addicted after taking a bite. He felt that it was much more delicious than the food bought outside. Even Kyosuke tastes like home. At that time, Uchiha Kyosuke, who devoured and barely filled his stomach, was not grateful for Rin and Hong's kindness. On the contrary, after eating, Kyosuke himself stood on the highest moral point and righteously reprimanded the two women Harano Rin and Yuhiko. Uchiha Kyosuke was bewitched by the two women's bento, so in the future, Harano Rin and Yuhika must be responsible for his breakfast. In the face of such a shameless and cheeky Uchiha Kyosuke with such a novel brain circuit, the second daughter was so shy that she immediately refused. But after the incident, the two girls didn't know what to think. The next morning, they both prepared a lunchbox for Kyosuke with a tacit understanding. Since then, Rin and Hong have not forgotten to bring a bento to Kyosuke every morning. As for why, maybe they thought Kyosuke's talk was interesting, and the girls' curiosity prompted them to get in touch more. Maybe they were fascinated by Kyosuke's handsome face. Perhaps they still pity Kyosuke's pitiful appearance of reincarnation like hunger. Hey, this is the bento you want from Kyosuke. The lively and lovely Rin smiled and pushed the bento she had prepared carefully before Uchiha Kyosuke. Having given so many bentos over the years, Lin is somewhat used to it, but her movements are very decent. In fact, when she first met Uchiha Kyosuke, Yuan Yelin thought that her tablemate, as the young master of the Uchiha family, would be arrogant, prejudiced, and difficult to get along with. But after getting along for a while, she found out that Kyosuke is actually very easy to talk to and get along with, and from time to time he will show up in his words and deeds, which is very interesting. Of course, it would be better if Kyosuke could get rid of the words that made Rin feel ashamed from time to time. After taking the bento that Rin carefully prepared, Kyosuke nodded with satisfaction and praised. As expected of the Lin I liked, not bad. What is you fancy? Kyosuke's words instantly ignited Yuan Rin's red and lovely face, and she stuttered a little when she spoke. Then Lin pouted and said angrily to Kyosuke, Kyosuke, please don't say this. It's very misleading. Kyosuke smiled indifferently. And la Lin, don't you care? How could you not care? Lin whispered, but the voice was so small that Kyosuke didn't hear it. Kyo, Kyosuke, this is the bento you want. On the other side, the little lowly Uchiha took out the bento and pushed it in front of Kyosuke and said softly and timidly, "Oh, Hong also brought it. Thank you very much, Hong." Kyosuke took over the love bento prepared by little Lolita Uchiha with some joy. When I opened it, it was quite rich, with shrimp, sori fillets, seasonal vegetables, and a large amount of sushi rice balls. This amount is enough. No, you're welcome. Hong glanced at Kyosuke slightly, and then quickly turned his head away, looking extremely cute. Even though he delivers bento to Kyosuke every day, he still can't change Hong's cute and shy personality. Kyosuke and the three of them. This scene is happening every morning, and the whole class looks at them with almost aching and numbness. Damn it, this is just a mouthful of dog food every day. Chapter 6. A sour smell gradually filled the entire classroom. Among them, there were two extremely resentful eyes staring at Uchiha Kyosuke. How could this be? Hateful. How can it be repaired? One of the unkind glances came from a teenager in a seat not far away. He was staring at Uchiha Kyosuke, who was surrounded by Uchiha and Harano Rin, with a red light of resentment and jealousy in his eyes. The boy was wearing a sports uniform with the flaming fan logo and sunshade mirrors on his forehead. This was the tail of the crane in the same Uchiha clan as Kyosuke, Uchiha Obito. That's right, the big black hand in the future ninja world. However, Obito is still a crane tail, not even Kyosuke. At the beginning, when Kyosuke chose Taijutsu, he was ridiculed by many people in the class. At that time, Obito also laughed. He once thought that the tail of the class crane would not be him after all, and it was the turn of the patriarch's younger brother. But soon, Obito was slapped in the face, and the rear position of the crane in that class was still his. Although Kyosuke majored in Taijutsu, he showed much better ninjutsu talent than Obito in school tests, completely crushing Obito and most of the class. What's more, Kyosuke's physical skills are also very powerful. Once in a practice class, Kyosuke was completely effortless, using physical techniques to defeat his opponent easily, and the opponent's strength was quite powerful. At that time, everyone present was shocked by Kyosuke's fierce physical skills. Gradually, no one in the entire class thought that Kyosuke, who practiced body art, was a nuisance. Even in every practice class, no one dared to play with Kyosuke. Hateful. That Uchiha Kyosuke actually has such a good relationship with Rin. Rin not only brings him bento every day, he also talks and laughs with Rin so much. You must know that Rin hasn't talked to me much. How can it be repaired? Watching Uchiha Kyosuke chatting and laughing with Rin while eating the bento that Rin gave him, Uchiha Obito felt very uncomfortable. In an instant, Obito angered just a lemon. Kyosuke and Rin's relationship is so good. Obito doesn't know how jealous. You must know that he knew Rin earlier than Uchiha Kyosuke, but Rin has always been with Obito as an ordinary friend. But there are not too many other feelings to show. But since Lin met Uchiha Kyosuke, the hateful little white face, Lin didn't know what he was saying, and was stunned by the stupid Uchiha Kyosuke who chose the body art. Even at the end, bring him a bento almost every day. That is a love bento specially prepared by girls. Thinking of this, Uchiha Obito, who was already a bit precocious, could not help but feel jealous, and the more he looked at Uchiha Kyosuke, the more he felt unpleasant. How can it be repaired? Damn Uchiha Kyosuke. At the same time, another look of jealousy was also staring at Uchiha Kyosuke. In the back seats next to Uchiha, the boy with a rebellious look on his face was now third Hokage's son, Sarutobi Asuma. At this time, Asuma's mood was not much different from Obito's. When Asuma saw Hong take out the bento she had carefully prepared and bring it to Uchiha Kyosuke, although it was not the first time he had seen it. However, a feeling of sourness still couldn't hold back and instantly filled his heart. Asuma was jealous. As a result, Asuma immediately angered a lemon. Damn Uchiha Kyosuke. How can it be repaired? This guy Uchiha Kyosuke is obviously a playboy who doesn't want to improve his body skills. Why does Hong still have such close contact with him? At this time, Asuma also had jealousy in his eyes and looked at Uchiha Kyosuke, who was chatting, laughing, and communicating with Hong. The seemingly peaceful and beautiful picture was extremely dazzling in Sarutobi Asuma's eyes. You must know that before Asuma, he and Hong had no guesses. They were childhood sweethearts. However, since the alternative of the Uchiha family appeared, everything began to change slowly, and the communication between Hong and himself was significantly reduced. Moreover, Asuma vaguely felt that Hong was keeping a certain distance from him. This feeling made Asuma very uncomfortable. It also made the beginning of love, and the ignorant Asuma was particularly annoyed. Damn Uchiha Kyosuke. How can it be repaired? What's so good about that Uchiha alternative? His strength and talent are not as good as him, Asuma thought. Why is Hong still so close to him? Asuma clenched his fist tightly, his eyes full of unwillingness. Chapter 7. I have to say, while enjoying the bento brought by the two little beauties, Kyosuke thought it was quite interesting to tease Lin and Hong from time to time. That is, the eyes around him are not very friendly. Kyosuke even sensed that there were two incomparably sharp, cannibalistic eyes staring at him tightly behind him. Those two glances were familiar to Kyosuke. But Kyosuke didn't care. He was used to it. Huh, I'm full. Thank you for your hospitality. Kyosuke clasped his hands together, lowered his head slightly, and smiled contentedly. Kyosuke-kun, you are still practicing so hard today. Aren't you afraid that it will affect today's important graduation examination? If you don't perform well at that time, you won't pass and you won't graduate. Rin on the side reminded Kyosuke kindly. Although Rin joked that Kyosuke was always late, in fact Rin and Hong both knew that Kyosuke had the habit of getting up early every day to practice taijutsu, and Lin's concerns were justified. After all, if they can't pass the graduation examination, they can't graduate to become genin, and they can't be divided into classes, and then they can't. I have to say that little girls are more sensible and thinkers, and they are much more mature than most boys of the same age now. On the other side, Hong Yu-hee, hearing what Rin Yuanya said, couldn't help but mention her heart. But Yuhika didn't say much, just looked at his deskmate beside him, Uchiha Kyosuke, with worry on her cute little face. Kyosuke smiled confidently and said, "Don't worry, Lin, Hong, the graduation examination is not an easy thing to pass." Kyosuke, he now prefers to directly participate in the graduation actual combat assessment, and then get that rather generous reward. Haha. Kyosuke stretched his waist and yawned, a little tired. I'm very sleepy now, two little beauties. Can you let me rest on your legs for a while? Kyosuke-kun, please don't. Don't say those annoying things. No. Rin Harano and Kane Yu-hee, whose faces turned red as rouge, said separately. Hey. Then I'll squint for a while, and wake me up after the graduation assessment. After Kyosuke finished speaking, he lay down on the table and fell asleep. As for resting on Lin and Hong's legs, let alone the classroom doesn't allow it. Now that Lin and Hong have not yet developed, the effect is somewhat ineffective. As for the future, Kyosuke might be interested. Also, he was really sleepy. After all, getting up early every day to complete the daily tasks of the system is not so pleasant. He hasn't slept enough yet. However, it may be because of the system. Every time he wakes up, he feels that the fatigue left by the cultivation in his whole body has been swept away. Uchiha Kyosuke, who tugged at the heartstrings of the two little loli, soon fell into a sleep state and went to sleep carelessly. Only Rin and Kane Yu-hee, who were secretly depressed, were left behind. Kyosuke didn't know how long he had been in a drowsy sleep. Kyosuke, get up. The graduation examination is about to start. Kyosuke, wake up. Uchiha Kyosuke opened his drowsy eyes hazy under the soft voices of Norin and Hong at the same table. The teacher who was standing on the podium in the classroom and didn't know when he came in was talking eloquently about the things that should be paid attention to in the graduation assessment. Anha. Kyosuke stretched his waist without any scruples, yawned, and rubbed his hazy eyes. Oha Lin, Hong, Yuan Yellen. Red Yu-hee. Okay, classmates, this graduation assessment is related to whether you can successfully graduate to become genin and even affect your life in the future. I can only talk about this, teacher. In the end, I hope everyone can pass. Now gather at the training ground. After the teacher finished speaking, he organized the students to go to the ninja school training ground to participate in the graduation assessment. On the way to the training ground, Kyosuke walked with Rin and Hong, followed by two jealous eyes like needles. Kyosuke completely ignored it, but sighed in his heart. The graduation examination is finally here. His long-awaited entry-level outfit, Haki, is also on the way. The graduation assessment of the ninja school is different from the bells and whistles of Konoha's peaceful era. It is mainly divided into two parts. The first part is to learn the three-body technique and to survive a minute under a chunin. The second part is the graduation practical assessment. For students who want to graduate, the first part of the graduation assessment is particularly important. Basically, if you pass the first part of the graduation assessment, you can successfully graduate. As for the second part of the graduation practical assessment, it is more icing on the cake. However, the graduation actual combat assessment is what most of Konoha's wealthy families and Hokage will pay more attention to. Chapter 8. For the Konoha family, it is not uncommon for their children to successfully graduate from the ninja school. And getting the first place in the graduation actual combat assessment is the highlight moment for the family to compete for face. Moreover, the graduation actual combat assessment has a relatively high gold content. From here, we can also see how many outstanding talents there are in this ninja school. In fact, the bet between Uchiha Fugaku and Kyosuke was somewhat hopeful that his younger brother would be proud of the family. After all, the Uchiha family is a proud family. On the training ground of the ninja school, many students are already gearing up for the start of the graduation assessment. There are also many frowning, worried that they will fail the exam. At this time, there was a lot of commotion ahead, and suddenly someone shouted, "Lord Hokage is here." In the stands of the training ground, Sarutobi Hiruzen appeared in front of everyone wearing a red Hokage ninja uniform and a Hokage hat. Next to third Hokage, Konoha Sannin also came. Sarutobi Hiruzen appears almost in Konoha's more important occasions. Moreover, his prestige in Konoha village is still quite high. When he appeared, the teachers of the ninja school and many students on the training ground began to make noise. Kyosuke, look, that's third Hokage, and those three adults. Rin Harano and Kane Yuhi next to Uchiha Kyosuke had expressions of admiration on their faces when they saw third Hokage and Sannin appearing on the training ground. Lin even said happily, grabbing the arm of Uchiha Kyosuke, who was not in the mood. "Che, isn't that the old guy from third generation? What's there to see?" Uchiha Kyosuke pouted. "Kyosuke-kun, that is the third Hokage-sama who is admired by the people in the village." "It's not what you said, eh?" "That." Hearing Kyosuke calling third Hokage so disrespectfully, Rin immediately corrected Kyosuke with a serious face. Looking at Lin's serious and cute appearance next to him, Kyosuke felt more and more interesting, so he laughed and teased her and said, "Third Hokage? I know, that old third-generation guy." "Kyosuke-kun." Lin was annoyed by Kyosuke. Haha, Kyosuke felt more and more interesting when he looked at Rin's puffed-up appearance. When Hong Yuhi heard that Kyosuke addressed third Hokage in such a disrespectful tone, her beautiful Ame raised her energy a few times. But Hong did not persuade Kyosuke as loudly as Rin. "Children, you are all the future of the village, the pride of Konoha, the inheritor of the will of fire. The future of the village will be guarded by you. Come on, children." It has to be said that Sarutobi Hiruzen has become Konoha's third Hokage. In addition to his own strength, he is also extremely politically friendly. At this time, Kyosuke felt a little contemptuous in his heart. "Tisuke, I knew I would use this little trick to win people over." Kyosuke is still very disdainful of Sarutobi Hiruzen's soft-hearted political tricks. Kyosuke knows that Sarutobi Hiruzen always likes to stand on the moral high ground, set out with righteousness, and then persuade others to achieve his goals with his warm, bewitching personality charm. The methods he uses are often bloodless. Take the Uchiha genocide incident in the original book as an example. If there was no tacit connivance behind third Hokage to fuel the flames, perhaps the tragic genocide of the Uchiha family would not have happened. So, Kyosuke didn't really care about third Hokage. That kid. On the podium, a man with long black hair, long golden pupils, purple eyeshadow extending to his nose, pale skin, with blue hook-shaped earrings. This man gives a feeling insidious. This man is one of the famous Konoha Sannin in the ninja world today, Longjun Orochimaru. What's wrong? Orochimaru? Next to Orochimaru, there was a tall man. He wears a forehead protector with the word oil written on it, and has long white hair down to his waist. There are red marks under the eyes. He is wearing a red jacket, and he wears armor-like equipment on both hands. He is another of the Konoha Sannin, Jiraiya. At this time, many years have passed since the Second Ninja World War, and the two of them, Jiraiya and Orochimaru, are also relatively leisurely in Konoha village. I heard that there are several outstanding students who graduated from this ninja school, and they plan to come and have a look when they have nothing to do. That child belongs to the Uchiha family. Orochimaru looked closely at Uchiha Kyosuke, who stood out in the crowd. Indeed, Uchiha Kyosuke's outstanding appearance and extraordinary temperament stand out from the crowd. In addition, among the crowd of students who were listening to third Hokage's inspiring speech with joy and excitement, only Kyosuke seemed to be indifferent and abrupt. The Uchiha family? Hearing what Orochimaru said, Jiraiya looked over curiously. After all, the Uchiha family is a special existence in this village. Chapter 9. Oh, Orochimaru, you mean the boy surrounded by two cute little girls? I didn't expect that boy to be from the Uchiha clan. He's not bad. TSK. There are two little beauties beside him. It's really enviable to go around him. When Jiraiya saw Uchiha Kyosuke, she couldn't stop nodding her head in praise. Orochimaru. Jiraiya, Orochimaru's character is all too familiar to this strange longtime companion and comrade in arms. Orochimaru ignored Jiraiya directly. Listening to Jiraiya and Orochimaru discussing this, coming here is totally a cutscene. Princess Katsuyu. Senju Tsunade can't help but look in that direction. That is the alternative of the Uchiha family, a handsome boy, but that's all. After Senju Tsunade glanced at it, he turned his head with a lack of interest, thinking about something. At this time, Orochimaru couldn't help but think of the fact that some time ago, the head of the Uchiha clan came to the door in person. After a pep talk, demagoguery, from 3rd Hokage, the graduation assessment is about to begin. The content of the assessment is very simple. One is to know the three-body technique, and the other is to be able to persist under my hands for more than 1 minute to pass the assessment. A Chunin assessment teacher who exuded an incomparably chilling aura walked up to the students. The aura of this Chunin assessment teacher can only be exuded by being tempered by blood and fire on the ruthless battlefield. The ordinary Chunin of Konoha's peace period cannot be compared with it at all. This invisible and fierce momentum made the students present feel a sense of oppression. The strength of this Chunin assessment teacher directly discouraged most students. Don't say a minute, even for half a minute, they couldn't hold it. Sensing the students' retreat, the teacher continued. You can rest assured that the teacher will control your strength, and you don't need to really support for a minute. If you perform well, you can pass. Hearing what the teacher said, the students who were discouraged could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. In this case, the assessment will be much simpler. Otherwise, graduation from the ninja school is simply an extravagant hope for them. The two women, Yuan Yilin and Yu Hihong, who were on the side, couldn't help but feel relieved and secretly cheered for themselves. Fortunately, in this case, then I should be able to successfully pass the examination and graduate with Kyosuke. Thinking of this, Harano Rin and Yu Hihong gave a very vague look at Uchiha Kyosuke beside them. For Uchiha Kyosuke, such an assessment is a trivial matter. Moreover, the aura that this teacher Chunin exuded just now was completely unaffected by him. At this moment, he stared at Chunin, who was in charge of the graduation assessment, and thought to himself, his current strength is probably the level of Chunin. But if you get the junior armament haki, at this time, the assessment started. The teacher who led the students just now nodded to the examiner Chunin with the student name manual in his hand, and said, assessment begins. The first one, Hong Yuhi, come out for the test? Hong Yuhi tensed her body a little nervously, and quickly replied, yes. Sensing the nervous red, Kyosuke smiled and comforted. Hong, don't be nervous. Just treat it as normal training. Believe in yourself, you can do it. After saying that, Kyosuke touched the red silky hair again encouragingly. Yuan Yelin, who was on the side, also came to cheer on her good friend. Red, come on, you can do it. Hong lowered her head a little shyly and walked forward. After 3 minutes, Red Yui pass. Next, Yuan Yelin. Yuan Yilin, pass. Next, Uchiha Kyosuke. Uchiha Kyosuke, pass. Next, Saratobi Asuma. Saratobi Asuma, pass. Next, Uchiha Obito. Next, Might Guy. Kyosuke, Rin and Hong all passed the test without any surprises. With the progress of the graduation assessment, the first round soon passed, and the second round of the graduation assessment, the actual graduation assessment. After a while, there was a loud noise from the front. Look, the patriarch of the Uchiha family is here too. What's so strange, Uchiha Kyosuke is the younger brother of the Uchiha family patriarch. As the big brother, of course he is coming here. I didn't expect that Uchiha Kyosuke, an alternative of the Uchiha family, actually passed the graduation examination. It's not surprising, after all, although Uchiha Kyosuke majored in physique. But, to tell the truth, his physique is really good. When he fought against the Chunin examiner just now, he actually had a similar fight with the examiner. The patriarch of the Uchiha family is here. Does he want to see his younger brother get the first place in the actual combat test? Haha, you're joking. No matter how good Uchiha Kyosuke is in Taijutsu, how can he be good at ninjutsu? I would say that the first place in the actual combat test should be the son of Lord Hokage, Saratobi Asuma. I can't say that. There are still many talents in this session, such as Shiranui Xianjian, and there are similarities. Chapter 10. Just when most people were talking about it, the Uchiha family patriarch, Uchiha Fugaku, stepped onto the training stand. It's Fugaku. Why are you here today? For Uchiha Fugaku to come to participate in the graduation assessment of the ninja school. Although 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen is a bit strange, it is not surprising. After all, Uchiha Kyosuke is this brother. My younger brother is about to graduate from ninja school, so it's not too much to come as a big brother. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen's ordinary question fell into the ears of Uchiha Fugaku, but it seemed a bit harsh and intriguing. Why are you free to come here? Can't I attend this graduation assessment ceremony if I don't have time? This Konoha village's big and small things are yours. 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen can decide by one person? Do I, the Uchiha patriarch, need to report to you when I come here? This can't blame Uchiha Fugaku for being sensitive. After all, the relationship between the Uchiha family and Hokage, as well as the other big families of Konoha, is not very good. Friction and contradiction are accumulating bit by bit. Sir Hokage is still interested. Although he is busy with official business, he can still take time to come here to participate in the graduation assessment ceremony of this ninja school. Uchiha said to Sarutobi Hiruzen with a smile. Although what he thought was different, Uchiha Fugaku, as Uchiha's patriarch, did a good job on the surface. The arrival of Uchiha Fugaku caused Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Senju Tsunade and Sannin to glance at him, but then nothing happened. After all, the three of them didn't have much contact with the Uchiha patriarch. But Orochimaru stayed a little longer on Uchiha Fugaku, then looked away. In the stands, with the arrival of Uchiha Fugaku, the atmosphere inexplicably became a little weird. Kyosuke, look, your big brother is here. Rin pulled Kyosuke's arm and pointed to the stand. Hearing what Lin said, Hong on the side also looked curiously at the stand. Is that Sama Kyosuke's big brother? Kyosuke was a little speechless after being teased by Lin like this. Lin, what's so good about this? I'm tired of watching my stupid old brother. It's more interesting to talk to you guys. Kyosuke said this, but he was complaining about his old brother in his heart. It's more like a real brother. Kyosuke-kun, you can't say that. This is your big brother. You should respect him. At this time, Lin rarely got up seriously and taught Kyosuke a serious lesson. Kyosuke-kun, I also think Lin is right. Hong, who was on the side, had a rare speech, which made Kyosuke a little different. Hey, what the two little beauties have taught me is that I was wrong. In the future, I will definitely reflect on my mistakes, make corrections, respect my teachers, love my elder brothers, and take care of flowers and plants. Lin read. In the crowd, Sarutobi Asuma looked at Yuhika and Uchiha Kyosuke talking and laughing, and his heart filled with sourness. Thinking of the next graduation practical assessment, Sarutobi Asuma looked at Uchiha Kyosuke with a rather unpleasant expression. Uchiha Kyosuke, it's best not to meet me in the next actual combat test, otherwise. On the other side, Uchiha Obito looked at the scene where Kyosuke and Rin were getting along happily. Although his heart was sour, his eyes were full of sadness. I'm still too weak, after all, I can't compare to that Uchiha Kyosuke. In the first round of graduation assessment just now, Obito's performance was not very good, and he couldn't support for a moment in the match against the Chunin examiner, although he barely managed to pass in the end. To know his rival Uchiha Kyosuke, but under the hands of the Chunin examiner, he supported him for a minute without any pressure. Moreover, in the next actual combat test, Obito has almost no hope of winning a game. Next, representatives of the more well-known wealthy families in Konoha village came one after another from the viewing seats at the training ground, including the Sarutobi family, the Hyuga family, the Moonlight family, and Yuhika's father, Yuhima, also came. At this time, the graduation practical assessment also officially began. The actual combat assessment has begun. In the first game, Uchiha Kyosuke played the same match. An examiner presiding over the assessment announced. Kyosuke was a little surprised. He didn't expect that it would be his turn so quickly in the first game. Kyosuke-kun, come on, Kyosuke-kun. Hearing that Uchiha Kyosuke was about to play, Hong and Rin encouraged Kyosuke one after another. Kyosuke nodded in response and stepped forward. His opponent was exactly the same as the opposite. A short brown hair that looks like an ordinary opponent. However, Kyosuke remembered that he didn't know whether it was Lin or Hong who mentioned him to him. His strength seemed to be pretty good, and he could be classified as an excellent representative among the students. In this actual combat assessment, there are also many voices supporting him, thinking that he is a potential candidate for the first place. Chapter 11. One move determines the outcome. The two sides have formed the seal of confrontation, and the test will begin. After the actual combat assessment teacher finished speaking, he quit the competition. To be honest, Kyosuke was not in high spirits looking at his opponent. The result of this game is almost without any suspense. You go first. Kyosuke stood on the field and said casually. However, his attitude gave people an arrogant attitude. In the stands not far away, Uchiha Fugaku saw Kyosuke like this and couldn't help but feel a little helpless. Kyosuke, this is a graduation test, and there are so many Konoha-minded people here, so you should be more serious. His troublesome younger brother really often doesn't play cards according to the routine. On the side, third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, he didn't show anything, didn't say anything, just watched silently. On the other side, Sannin, Jiraiya, Senju Tsunade, Orochimaru have nothing to do, and they are also looking at the game when they are bored. Looking at the arena, Sannin and the others were slightly dazed, as if remembering the years the three of them had gone through in the ninja school before. Hearing Kyosuke's arrogant words, Sule couldn't help but twitch in his eyes. Uchiha Kyosuke, you are such an arrogant guy. I hope you don't regret it. After he finished speaking, he leaned forward slightly, took out a kudo from the ninja bag, and hurriedly charged towards Uchiha Kyosuke with the soles of his feet. Kyosuke shook his head involuntarily when he saw the same people rushing towards him. To dare to rush over like this, I have to say, I am really not afraid of death. In an instant, Kyosuke disappeared in place. Then, an extremely fast mid-air rotation condensed its own strength onto his feet and kicked him away fiercely against the rushing Bianchi Tong. Noba flow, whirlwind, boom. The one who hadn't reacted yet was kicked out of the arena by Kyosuke in a straight line, hitting the wall in the distance and making a loud bang. The poor fellow was the same and was knocked unconscious by Kyosuke's kick. Looking at the same Kyosuke who passed out not far away, Kyosuke couldn't help shaking his head. Really too weak? Just now, he was still holding back a bit of strength, otherwise he would have to be kicked and disabled. Quiet. The arena was deadly silent. Everyone on the court was shocked by Kyosuke's brilliant kick, especially the examiner teacher who presided over the assessment. But at this time, he was so shocked that his jaw was about to fall, and his eyes were full of disbelief. It was less than a minute before he announced the start of the game. Is it over? Unexpectedly, this Uchiha Kyosuke, the younger brother of the Uchiha Patriarch, the alien of the Uchiha clan, is so powerful, and his technique, proficiency, and strength just now are not at the level that Genin can perform. This physique should at least have a standard Chunin level. Oh, so handsome. This kick is beautiful, as expected of my idol. In the crowd of students, the armor that was wearing green tight-fitting one-piece sportswear, thick eyebrows and big eyes, and clothes that looked a little weird and funny, was so excited that he shouted on the spot. At this moment, Might Guy looked excited and looked at Uchiha Kyosuke with admiration, like a crazy groupie. Among them, Sarutobi Asuma saw Kyosuke's outstanding performance. His face was a little ugly. As for Obito, the boss with his eyes wide open and his mouth open for a long time, looked at Uchiha Kyosuke in disbelief, defeating the opponent with just one move. It must be too strong. Suddenly, Uchiha Obito felt a deep sense of failure and frustration. In the stands, Sannin Jiraiya, Senju Tsunade, and Orochimaru were all surprised by Kyosuke's brilliant kick. TSK, I didn't expect that kid from the Uchiha family to be quite strong. Watching Uchiha Kyosuke on the field, Jiraiya was amazed. Then, of course, he turned his head to look at Senju Tsunade and said with a joking smile, Tsunade, that Uchiha kid has a kick like yours. How about that? Are you interested in teaching him? Teach him? What are you kidding? Tsunade glared at Jiraiya, who was a little rude. Afterwards, her beautiful, deep and story-filled eyes lowered her head and looked at the ground, not knowing what she was thinking. As for Orochimaru, he became more and more curious about the younger brother of the Uchiha Patriarch, Uchiha Kyosuke. If you want to say in the field, who is most surprised by Kyosuke's kick is his brother Uchiha Fugaku. Uchiha Fugaku was very surprised. Although he thought that Kyosuke might win this match, he did not expect that Kyosuke would win so neatly. One move decides the outcome. Chapter 12. Fugaku, that kid is your brother, right? He's not bad. Sarutobi Hiruzen praised Kyosuke kindly when he saw Kyosuke's wonderful performance. Sarutobi Hiruzen, although he said so on the surface, he had another thought in his heart. Uchiha Kyosuke's skills just now, in terms of Taijutsu, were completely beyond the range of his age, and he was not even inferior to Chunin's Taijutsu strength. Although it is rumored that he majors in Taijutsu, if his ninjutsu is also very good, and if his bloodline boundary, Sharingan, opens his eyes, in addition to his outstanding talent in physique, and his special status as the younger brother of the Uchiha clan chief. To sum up, Sarutobi Hiruzen pondered in his heart. Looks like I'll have to take a good look at him in the future. Third Hokage considers things rigorously and carefully, and has a long-term vision, and will not ignore Uchiha Kyosuke because of his young age and the practice of unconventional taijutsu. He is an outlier among Uchiha. Hearing third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen complimenting his younger brother, Uchiha Fugaku was happy in his heart, but on the surface he still had to show humility. Lord Hokage, Kyosuke just got away with winning a game this time, and it depends on his next performance. But my stubborn younger brother does have some unique talents in physical arts. After speaking, at this moment, Uchiha Fugaku had a vague sense of Kyosuke's talent in taijutsu, and agreed with the idea of letting him continue his studies on taijutsu. But it was in this trance, and then Uchiha Fugaku quickly dismissed his unrealistic idea. The Uchiha clan's blood lineage, Sharingan, and the excellent fire style talent are the paths that Kyosuke has to choose. Back to the actual combat arena. Looking at the stunned examiner, Kyosuke was speechless and reminded aloud. Examiner, the game is over. Hurry up and announce the results. Don't waste time. Sorry. The examiner came back to his senses and hurriedly announced. Uchiha Kyosuke wins. Sarutobi Asuma, Uchiha Obito, prepare to fight. After finishing speaking, the examiner hurriedly walked towards the unconscious person, and he had to do the aftermath. Very easy to win the game. Kyosuke walked off the court. Kyosuke-kun, congratulations on winning this game. Kyosuke-kun, you won. That's great. Uchiha Kyosuke, who came off the field, welcomed Rin and Hong. At this time, Rin Yuan and Hong Yuhihi, with their beautiful eyes shining with stars, looked at Kyosuke, their longtime friend at the same table, with incomparable admiration. To be honest, the scene of Kyosuke's very smooth and neat one-shot decision just now really surprised these two little beauties. Although Lin and Hong know that Kyosuke is very strong, and they are also confident in Kyosuke in this game, they are still far from expecting. Kyosuke turned out to be stronger than they expected. Low-key, low-key. Kyosuke smiled and greeted Lin and Hong who came, but that expression was quite self-confident and complacent, and he had a kind of invisible arrogance, which was extremely inconsistent with what he said about being low-key. On Sarutobi Asuma's side, when he heard that he was going to shoot in the next match, he couldn't help but feel eager to try. In this competition, Sarutobi Asuma must play well, so that everyone present, especially someone he likes, must let her see his wonderful performance. Asuma wants to let Hong know that he is no worse than Uchiha, or even better than him. So, Asuma looked towards the red side intentionally or unintentionally. Asuma's face darkened even more when he saw that Hong was still with that Uchiha Kyosuke chatting and laughing. Damn Uchiha Kyosuke. Hong must have been bewitched by you. I must expose your true colors. When Uchiha Obito heard that his opponent was Sarutobi Asuma, he was dumbfounded. Done. It's almost doomed to lose. Obito wanted to cry without tears. The two sides form a seal of opposition. Game start. On the actual battlefield, Uchiha Obito looked at his opponent, Sarutobi Asuma, the most powerful existence in this class of students. Thinking of this, Obito's heart couldn't help but back away. It's over. How can I beat it? Asuma, on the other hand, looked relaxed at this time. Obito, you should shoot first. I'm afraid you won't have a chance after I shoot. At this time, Asuma learned from Kyosuke's cool opening remarks, and also wanted to pretend to be forceful. How can it be repaired? Feeling that he was being despised, Obito couldn't help but burn with anger. Damn! Don't underestimate me. Obito quickly took a kunai from the ninja bag and threw it at Asuma in the distance. Immediately afterwards, Obito took out another kunai in his own hand and quickly rushed towards Sarutobi Asuma. You are too weak. Asuma dodged the flying kunai. Chapter 13. Kyosuke vs. Rival. Not good. Obito, who only reacted at this time, wanted to retract his body, but it was too late. Wind-style great breakthrough. Asuma spewed a powerful whirlwind from his mouth, which quickly swept away Uchiha Obito. Obito, who hadn't reacted yet, was powerless to resist, and was hit by the powerful whirlwind and fell to the ground, in a state of embarrassment. How can it be repaired? I haven't lost yet. Obito, who was knocked to the ground, lost his fighting power and collapsed to the ground. The game is over. Sarutobi Asuma wins. Then, Some students around began to cheer and discuss. As expected of third Hokage's son, Asuma is really amazing. I think this year's graduation examination practice assessment, Asuma is firmly in the first place. Not necessarily, I just thought Uchiha Kyosuke was pretty good too. While people were talking, Rin next to Kyosuke looked at Uchiha Obito, who was knocked unconscious on the ground with some worry. I have to say that Lin's heart is kind and pure, and Obito is more or less Lin's ordinary friend. Kyosuke, Obito should be fine, right? Rin asked Kyosuke, who was beside him. Kyosuke pondered for a while. The injury may be a little serious, but don't worry, Lin. There shouldn't be any problem with the teacher, but Obito is expected to rest in the hospital for a while. Kyosuke said slowly while looking at Obito, who was taken by the teacher for treatment. Hearing Kyosuke say that, Rin felt relieved. However, looking at Asuma, who won the game, Lin couldn't help frowning. Asuma shot just now. It must be too heavy. Red on the side also nodded and agreed. Lin is right, after all, Obito, but it's impossible to win. The tail of the crane in a class is the first in the class, and the gap must be like a gulf. Poor Asuma was still standing on the field, thinking that Red would definitely notice when he saw his wonderful performance just now. Perhaps because of his wonderful performance, his impression of himself has been greatly changed. But Asuma didn't know that he did not know the importance of Obito, but instead made Hong stay away from him. Compared to Kyosuke's dazzling shot before, Sarutobi Asuma's performance in this game was quite impressive. But because Asuma is the son of third Hokage, the victory of this competition, in the eyes of most people, is the most common. Lord Hokage, Asuma is indeed a genius. I didn't expect to be able to use C-rank ninjutsu proficiently at such a young age. With time, the future is bound to be limitless. Uchiha Fugaku in the stands complimented Sarutobi Hiruzen politely. However, at this time, Uchiha Fugaku's heart was disapproving. Kyosuke's ninjutsu talent is no worse than himself, and he is much stronger than Sarutobi's son. If Kyosuke majors in ninjutsu chakra, he may not be able to surpass Asuma. Besides, the third-generation son used C-level ninjutsu on a student as soon as he came up, and he didn't know the severity of the shot. According to Uchiha Fugaku, that Uchiha Obito's level in the class is the tail of the crane. Using C-level ninjutsu on a poor student at the tail of a crane is too much of a fuss. And that Uchiha Obito is his own clan. His clan actually lost to Hokage's son so easily. Thinking of this, Fugaku felt vaguely uncomfortable. This kid Asuma is still far behind. Sarutobi Hiruzen took his cigarette, and took a sip, and said calmly. However, deep in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes, there is love and expectation for Asuma. The next game, the next actual combat assessment is proceeding in an orderly manner. Let me talk about it here. In the next competition, Red actually fought against Lin. They fought back and forth, but ended in a tie. In the end, Kyosuke's opponent was the first existence among the students of this ninja school, third Hokage's son, Sarutobi Asuma. To be honest, Uchiha Fugaku was a little surprised by the result of such a competition. He didn't expect his younger brother to be able to pass 5 levels and beat 6 generals all the way to the final. Surprised, but in this match, Uchiha Fugaku was not so sure of Kyosuke's chances of winning. After all, although Kyosuke's physical training is not bad, according to what he has learned, Sarutobi Asuma's strength has already surpassed Genin and even vaguely reached the level of Chunin. In this battle between Kyosuke and Asuma, Uchiha Fugaku estimates that Kyosuke will lose without any surprise. However, Uchiha Fugaku is already satisfied that Kyosuke has come this far. Of course, if Kyosuke can beat Asuma, he'll be even happier. Although this may seem impractical. The last match, Uchiha Kyosuke versus Sarutobi Asuma. This procrastination was going on, and it finally came to the last stage of the graduation practical assessment. To be honest, Kyosuke was a little tired of waiting. Chapter 14. Come with me if I win. Just in time to finish the game and get the entry-level armament haki of your dreams. Kyosuke was looking forward to seeing armament haki coming soon. Kyosuke-kun, come on. You must win. Rin and Hong encouraged Kyosuke one after another. To be honest, Lin and Hong were really pleasantly surprised that Kyosuke made it to the finals. Seeing the two cute loli beside him cheering for him, Kyosuke laughed. No problem, but if I win, do you have anything to say? What? Let's talk about the reward first, so that I have the motivation to win. Seeing that she was planning to make cheap Kyosuke at this time, Lin felt a little funny. Then what kind of reward do you want first? The one who likes to take advantage of? Kyosuke-kun. If I win, You two can accompany me to take a bath. Ah, I haven't experienced the big bath in Konoha for a long time. I really miss it, Kaisu quipped. Seriously stated here, that bathhouse is for regular men and women to bathe separately. Reject? No, Kaisu-kun. Lin and Hong immediately refused. Haha, just kidding. You won't take it seriously. Forget it if I win. You two invite me to eat barbecue. That's it. Looking at Rin and Hong, whose faces were already red, Kaisu laughed and walked to the finals. For Lin and Hong, these two cute lowly, Kaisu has not yet reached the level of a demented and naive gentleman. But after teasing them on a daily basis, Kaisu thought it was quite interesting to see Lin and Hong with red faces and red ears, shy and angry. In the training arena, Sarutobi Asuma looked at Uchiha Kyosuke, who came up slowly, with a bad expression on his face. He heard the words that Kyosuke teased to Hong just now, and he had already heard it without saying a word. Asuma, he decided that he must teach this hateful guy a good lesson in this game. He must let Hong thoroughly see the real hateful face of this guy. At this time, the audience around the field, especially the representatives of the wealthy families of Konoha, looked at the two people on the field, and then looked at third Hokage in the stands and the patriarch of the Uchiha family. The surrounding atmosphere suddenly became strange and subtle. Third Hokage's son met the younger brother of the Uchiha family patriarch, and the two adults were present in person, which seemed a little subtle no matter what. Moreover, no matter which side wins, the other side's face must not look good. Before the test begins, the two sides will form a seal of opposition or thinking of the sensitive identities of Uchiha Kyosuke and Sarutobi Asuma. The teacher in charge of the assessment made a special statement. Then, the start of the game was announced. Although Asuma has a deep hatred for Kyosuke, he really wants to defeat Uchiha Kyosuke in front of him right away. But after seeing the strength that Kyosuke showed in the previous rounds, Asuma knew that Kyosuke's physical skills were very powerful and should not be underestimated. Although Uchiha Kyosuke majoring in physique is known as Uchiha Alternative. At the beginning of the match, Asuma did not take the initiative to attack, but retreated tactically, keeping a certain distance from Uchiha Kyosuke. It would be very irrational to face off against a ninja who mainly cultivated Taijutsu. Sarutobi Asuma, who stepped back and kept a certain distance from Uchiha Kyosuke, immediately made a quick seal with both hands, and then, wind-style great breakthrough. An incomparably cold whirlwind quickly spewed out of Asuma's mouth and swept away Kyosuke not far away. Looking at Sarutobi Asuma who attacked first, Kyosuke still stood there quietly, acting a little lazy. That posture, it is clear that there is no intention of evasion. Kyosuke, be careful. Seeing Kyosuke standing still, Lin couldn't help sweating in her heart and blurted out a warning in concern. Hong next to Lin didn't make a sound, but her lovely big eyes were staring at Kyosuke. Her beautiful eyes were full of worry, and her pink fist was clenched tightly. This game is finally worth seeing. Naturally, the people in the stands also watched the contest between the two Konoha geniuses this year, and their interest was also raised. Orochimaru and Tsunade didn't say anything, just sat and watched silently, but their focus was still on Uchiha Kyosuke, who was showing laziness and didn't care at all. At this time, a curiosity emerged in their hearts. This boy from the Uchiha family is so abruptly holding on to this C-rank ninjutsu, or is he confident that he can avoid it completely? Impossible. After all, now that ninjutsu is almost rushing to him, with Uchiha Kyosuke's current strength, it should be almost impossible to escape. Orochimaru and Tsunade can think of this, as can the representatives of the Konoha family, third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, and Uchiha Fugaku. Thinking of this, Uchiha Fugaku's face turned a little unsightly. Chapter 15. Just when everyone in the audience thought that Uchiha Kyosuke could hardly avoid this C-rank ninjutsu wind-style great breakthrough, just when Asuma had excitement in his eyes, thinking that his ninjutsu must have hit Uchiha Kyosuke. At this critical moment, Kyosuke's body reacted and started to move. However, it seems to be a bit late now. However, in the next moment, Kyosuke's actions completely stunned everyone present. I can see the danger contained in the whirlwind, sweeping over myself. Kyosuke looked disdainful. That's it? At this time, Kyosuke unloaded his entire body, controlled his body as easily as if he was drawing on paper, and committed himself to the attack of the airflow generated by ninjutsu towards himself. Dodge. He actually escaped. In the stands, seeing Kyosuke's dreamlike evasive steps with his own eyes, Tsunade stood up in shock, his eyes filled with wonder. What kind of gymnastics is this? Why has she never seen it? And how did that Uchiha kid do it? Orochimaru and Jiraiya, to be honest, were completely shocked by Kyosuke's superb physical skills. With their current Kage-level strength, there is absolutely no problem in avoiding or completely taking over this ninjutsu. However, if you want to do Kyosuke's way of not only not avoiding at all, but also directly avoiding all the ninjutsu attacks, Orochimaru and Jiraiya have to admit they can't do that yet. There was also a doubt in their minds. How did the child Uchiha do this extremely difficult physical exercise? In the stands, Kyosuke showed Uchiha Fugaku a complete shock. Is this a gymnastics? Why has he never seen or heard of? Simply unheard of. Thinking back to when Kyosuke insisted on choosing to major in physique, Uchiha Fugaku also knew that his younger brother was indeed talented in physique. However, he was far from thinking about Kyosuke's talent in physical skills, which can be described as stunning. Since he had never heard of such a physical technique, then this? Could it be the Taijutsu created by Kyosuke himself? Thinking of this, Uchiha Fugaku's expression changed and became complicated. Perhaps Kyosuke has his own reason why he chose to major in physique. At this time, third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen stared closely at the boy wearing the Uchiha Flame Fan logo on the training ground, and his expression became serious. With his decades of experience, he couldn't even see what kind of physique Kyosuke showed just now. Since he has never heard of this kind of physical technique, then, could it be that this child created it himself? This possibility is not without. If that's the case, a 9-year-old child created a powerful and bizarre physique that even he had never heard of. Could this offbeat member of the Uchiha family, Uchiha Kyosuke, be a physique genius? Thinking of this, third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes flashed with solemnity. On the playing field, Asuma looked at Kyosuke not far in front of him in disbelief, and he stood there unharmed. Just now, Asuma was confident that Uchiha Kyosuke would never be able to escape his own ninjutsu. However, the truth was in front of him. Uchiha Kyosuke completely escaped his ninjutsu. How can that be? Asuma couldn't believe it. Even though he hit Kyosuke with his ninjutsu, he acted like nothing. Could it be that Uchiha Kyosuke used the body replacement technique to dodge when he started ninjutsu just now? But Asuma didn't find out that Uchiha Kyosuke used the body replacement technique. Kyosuke stretched and moved, and said to Asuma nonchalantly, "Asuma, any other tricks? Go ahead. Remind you, if it is still this C-level ninjutsu, it will have no effect on me. Now that Kyosuke's paper arts proficiency has reached the level of Grandmaster, it is more than enough to avoid a C-rank ninjutsu." Hateful. Seeing the arrogant Uchiha Kyosuke on the other side, Asuma was full of anger. He was actually despised by someone who used to be the tail of the class crane. It's like the scene where he and Uchiha Obito were fighting before. However, the positions have been reversed, and now Asuma is a bit like Obito at the time, and Kyosuke has taken his place. Don't be too arrogant, Uchiha Kyosuke. See Weishin Hai Wu In, Fire Style Great Fireball Technique. Next, Asuma's next ninjutsu to be launched is the basic ninjutsu that the Uchiha clan learns, Fire Style. Asuma exists as the first student of the ninja school. In fact, he is a genius with fire style and wind style. Chapter 16. After Asuma gathered chakra in his throat, he instantly spit out a huge fireball at Kyosuke. Fire Style Great Fireball Technique. The attack range and lethality of this technique are very large, and the distance is also very long, because it is a high-temperature flame that is concentrated in one place. Uchiha Fugaku in the stands was a little surprised when he saw this scene. This Asuma really deserves to be the best student in this class of ninja school. He used C-level ninjutsu twice in a row before, but now there is still enough chakra to support him in using Fire-style Great Fireball technique. I have to say, Asuma is a genius. And below the stand, the representatives of those Konoha wealthy families saw that Sarutobi Asuma had issued the Fire-style Great Fireball technique again, and their eyes lit up. As expected, he is third Hokage's son. An ordinary Chunin has only mastered a few C-rank ninjutsu, and Asuma has released 2 C-rank ninjutsu in a row, which is already close to the strength of Chunin. Lin and Hong watched the high-temperature and violent fireball rush towards Uchiha Kyosuke, and their eyes were full of worry. "Kyosuke, you must be okay." To be honest, when Asuma made the ninjutsu seal just now, Kyosuke already knew that he was going to launch the Fire-style Great Fireball technique. Kyosuke, he couldn't help but be speechless. This Asuma is also a little stunned. This Fire-style Great Fireball technique, Kyosuke is simply familiar with it. After all, it is the basic ninjutsu that the Uchiha family learns, Fire Style. And Asuma used his family's basic ninjutsu in front of him. Isn't this just Bamon's axe? Although Asuma's strength is close to that of Chunin, it is barely a good opponent. But this test still doesn't make sense. Since it's boring, let's end it now. So Kyosuke's expression froze, and he quickly dodged when the huge flames of high temperature rushed towards him. Sure enough, compared to Fire Style's high-temperature intensive and extremely lethal ninjutsu, his taijutsu cannot be avoided. Jiraiya in the stands stared closely at Kyosuke, who disappeared from the spot, and analyzed it carefully. Oh, the speed of this kid from the Uchiha family is not bad. He even launched an attack at this time, but he has seized the opportunity. Jiraiya folded her arms, touched her chin, and muttered to herself. However, at this moment, Jiraiya suddenly straightened up and looked at Uchiha Kyosuke, who had risen to the sky in disbelief. Wait, what does that kid want to do? That's not good. And everyone present, Rin and Hong, who are worried about Kyosuke's safety, Senju Tsunade and Konoha Sanin, Long Jun Orochimaru, third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen in the stands, and the head of the Uchiha family, Uchiha Kyosuke's cheap brother, Uchiha Fugaku, and the representatives of those Konoha families under the stands, as well as the teachers of the actual combat assessment, as well as the teachers and students of the ninja school. At this moment, their eyes were all focused on Uchiha Kyosuke, who jumped into the air. Then, Kyosuke unleashed a physical technique that they had never seen before. Tempest Kick. Kyosuke lingered in midair, his leg muscles rapidly contracted and stretched to create kinetic energy, and then hurried out his legs to hit Asuma. Immediately, the air in front of the legs was compressed after the speed of sound was exceeded, and the vacuum was rolled up to send out a sharp, slashing wave that swept away Asuma fiercely. That's right, what Kyosuke used was the Tempest Kick, the lethal Tempest Kick in his current physique. After years of practice, his Tempest Kick has now reached a proficient level. Therefore, his Tempest Kick lethality should not be underestimated. When Kyosuke played this Tempest Kick, third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen in the stands finally moved his eyes. Uchiha Kyosuke is a genius born for taijutsu. At this moment, Uchiha Fu's mood is indescribable. He was blown away by the physique that Kyosuke showed. With Kyosuke's current strength, he is simply crushing Asuma, who is close to the level of Chunin strength. Uchiha Fugaku, he had never imagined that the stubborn younger brother, who was usually stubborn in his eyes, but had average strength, was actually hiding so deeply. It is undeniable that such a dazzling move by Kyosuke made Uchiha Fugaku a little excited. Kyosuke, nice job. As for the chop wave really hitting Asuma and causing serious damage to Asuma, Uchiha Fugaku has nothing to worry about. After all, in the competition field, in a fair duel, who can guarantee that he will not be injured? Who can guarantee that there will be no surprises? As long as that kid Kyosuke doesn't kill anyone, it's not a big problem for Uchiha Fugaku. Chapter 17. The Genius of Taijutsu. The blue slashing wave, which was as powerful as a bamboo, rushed towards Asuma, who was in a dazed state. Kyosuke's extremely domineering counterattack made Asuma a little surprised, and stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do. Kyosuke's Tempest Kick made him dumbfounded. No, if that Uchiha family boy's attack hits Asuma, then Jiraiya did not reveal the results. But if the slashing wave hits Asuma, Asuma must be seriously injured. Across the distance, Jiraiya could feel how mighty and domineering the power in the slashing wave was. He was determined to go to the rescue field. After all, Asuma was his teacher's son after all. It was impossible for Jiraiya to watch Asuma's accident here. However, at this time he was also helpless. After all, he was so far apart, and he was incapable of doing anything, and it was too late. Third Hokage also sensed Asuma's danger. Sarutobi Hiruzen's face changed. He forgot to smoke the cigarette stick in his hand, and immediately wanted to get up and go to the rescue. But again, with this distance, it was too late. Besides, the slashing waves from Kyosuke's Tempest Kick were extremely fast, and it was impossible for the third generation to have time to resist. Just when third generation's face became deeply worried, just when Asuma was completely desperate and powerless, as he watched the blue slashing wave rush towards him quickly. At this critical moment, the Chunin examiner who was closest to hear finally played his role. At the critical moment when the slashing wave was about to hit Asuma, the Chunin examiner rushed up quickly and pushed aside Sarutobi Asuma, who was still in a daze. Boom! At that moment, the slashing wave from Kyosuke's Tempest Kick hit the position where Asuma was standing before, and with a loud noise, the dust flew into the air. Seeing that Asuma was rescued at this critical moment, Saratobi Hiruzen's nervous heart immediately relaxed and he sighed in relief. On the other hand, when Uchiha Fugaku saw that the Chunin examiner suddenly intervened, the brows on his expressionless face could not help but wrinkle, and then the brows slowly loosened, and the expression on his face returned to no joy and no sorrow. And after the Chunin examiner quickly pushed Asuma away at the critical moment, he immediately stepped aside. At this time, he still had lingering fears. It was really too dangerous just now. Fortunately, he had foresight before and realized that the strength of Saratobi Asuma and Uchiha Kyosuke had surpassed the scope of Genin. Then the battle between the two of them will definitely not be the same as Genin. Therefore, he couldn't help but think more and stared closely at the game. Sure enough, the Chunin examiner was right in guessing. The battle between the two was at the level of Genin. This was clearly a scene that only happened when Chunin fought. Moreover, the attack by that Uchiha family boy was a bit too strong and domineering. As for Kyosuke's Tempest Kick, the Chunin examiner did not dare to go head-to-head, so he could only avoid it. But fortunately, the worst situation was stabilized by himself. Involuntarily, the Chunin examiner looked at the position where Asuma stood just now. Looking at it, his eyes instantly widened. No way! The power is so great. At the position of Asuma before, there were several extremely terrifying beheading marks at this time. Thinking that if he hadn't shot at that time, the attack would have directly hit Asuma, the Chunin examiner broke down in cold sweat thinking of this. Hey, examiner teacher. You intervene so suddenly. It confuses me, Kyosuke said helplessly to Examiner Chunin. However, Kyosuke had expected the move from Examiner Chunin. After all, as the Chunin examiner who presided over the assessment, he had the right to intervene in the competition when he thought it was dangerous. Moreover, the power of his own Tempest Kick is simply impossible for Asuma, who is still a stupefied young man with little combat experience, to withstand. In fact, even if the Chunin examiner didn't show up, Kyosuke's Tempest Kick hitting Asuma wouldn't be much of a problem. Kyosuke took some strength. At most, that is to let Asuma go to the hospital to get company with Obito and stay in the hospital for a while. The Chunin examiner looked at Uchiha Kyosuke with a complicated expression. To be honest, he has heard of this unusual Uchiha family. After all, how can Uchiha Kyosuke's identity be too special? He is the younger brother of the Uchiha patriarch. He didn't know the specific situation before, and thought that Uchiha Kyosuke was at most different from ordinary people in physical skills. However, after this incident, he realized deeply. Uchiha Kyosuke, he is really an alien from the Uchiha clan. His physical skills are so pervert. It seems that in the future, there will be an amazing physique geek in the Uchiha clan. Examiner Chunin sighed in his heart, and then directly announced, the final winner of this graduation test is Uchiha Kyosuke. Chapter 18. Although the Chunin examiner rescued Saratobi Asuma at this critical moment, there is a corresponding rule on the playing field. If the student is rescued, the student is deemed a loser. With the Chunin examiner announcing that Uchiha Kyosuke won the first place in the graduation practical assessment, this also marks the completion of the current main task. At the same time, Kyosuke heard a familiar and clear voice in his mind. Ding. Current main mission. Graduate from ninja school and become a genin successfully completed. Congratulations to the host for getting entry-level armament haki. Hearing this dreamy voice, Kyosuke was overjoyed. Armed haki. When the system prompted to obtain the entry-level armament haki, in an instant, Uchiha Kyosuke felt that he had armament haki-related information in his mind. Not only that, but Kyosuke's use of armament haki feels familiar in his body muscle memory. It felt like he would have armament haki before. Kyosuke, who was so happy at this time, immediately wanted to try the power of this entry-level armament haki. However, in the end he held back. Not in this case, the conditions do not allow it. After this matter, it is not too late to study and experiment with this long-awaited entry-level armament haki. On the other side, Saratobi Asuma was rescued. At this moment, he lowered his head and looked decadent. He failed. Lost to a Uchiha Kyosuke who, in his opinion, was not his opponent. Thinking of Uchiha Kyosuke's terrifying move just now, Asuma still had lingering fears. At that time, Asuma was really stunned and hardly knew what he was going to do. A taste called failure permeated Asuma's body. The representatives of the Konoha families on the training ground still don't quite believe the scene in front of them. Saratobi Asuma, who was recognized as the strongest in the ninja school, the son of 3rd Hokage, actually lost to the offbeats of the Uchiha family. This result is really beyond their expectations. At the same time, they looked at Uchiha Kyosuke who had already won the game, and there was a hint of seriousness in their eyes. They know that from now on, the title The Alternative of the Uchiha clan will no longer be talked about. Instead, the Uchiha clan appeared a supremely gifted physique genius, Uchiha Kyosuke. Kyosuke won the game very easily. When he came down, he was greeted by two cute lolis celebrating his victory. Kyosuke-kun, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Lin put her hands behind her back and said to Kyosuke with a sweet smile. Kyosuke-kun, congratulations. Hong, who was on the side, also congratulated Kyosuke, with a cute little blushing. Verbal celebration is not enough. I have decided to eat today's barbecue dinner. Of course, you are a treat. Kyosuke jokingly said with a smile also, I know that the two of you are little rich women, and you have accumulated a considerable amount of pocket money. What Kyosuke said? Little rich woman? Hearing Kyosuke calling them both, Rin and Hong blushed. Hong's father, Uchiha Hong, is a master of the hidden village in the country of Fire of Konoha, and his living conditions are naturally wealthy. Lin lives in an ordinary family with average conditions, but it's not bad. Tsunade, have you seen the trick used by the Uchiha clanboy just now? Jiraiya asked with a frown. After all, Tsunade is known for her strange power, especially her ultimate move, which is incredibly powerful. In a way, Tsunade's monstrous power can barely be regarded as taijutsu. Tsunade shook his head. This is the first time I have come into contact with this kind of strange taijutsu, and I just found out that the taijutsu used by that child has no chakra attached at all. It's just pure taijutsu. Although Tsunade is known for his strange power, this strange power, if strictly analyzed, is not a taijutsu. And Tsuna's ultimate move hurts the sky, and it can only be regarded as a kind of ninjutsu. The principle of Tsunade's magic power is to focus on powerful chakra manipulation skills and precisely control chakra. The extraordinary power of Tsunade comes from adjusting the technique of chakra, which is to gather chakra on his fists and legs in an instant, so as to obtain the powerful destructive power that cannot be exerted by the flesh alone. While Kyosuke had shown previously, Tsunade didn't feel a trace of chakra attached to his feet. Without relying on chakra, you can produce such a powerful explosive force just by relying on your body, right? Also, what's the reason for the slashing wave that erupted under the kid's feet? Jiraiya thought hard. Chapter 19, Treasure Girl. On the other hand, Orochimaru listened quietly and did not say anything, but his heart was thinking. Uchiha Kyosuke's physical art relies entirely on the power that erupts from his body, without any help from chakra. This is really fun. The famous Konoha scientist who loves scientific experiments, Orochimaru, gradually began to be curious about Uchiha Kyosuke's mysterious and powerful physique. Immediately afterwards, Orochimaru left without saying hello to Jiraiya and Tsunade. Fugaku, this little brother of yours is amazing. He is a genius in individual arts. Even though his son lost to Uchiha Kyosuke, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who is Hokage, still has energy. There was no displeased look on his face, but he praised Uchiha Kyosuke without hesitation. Hokage-sama, you won the prize. Kyosuke just won by fluke. In my opinion, I envy Asuma's excellent ninjutsu talent level in this competition. Uchiha Fugaku echoed in a very modest and low-key manner. However, the small smile on the corner of Uchiha Fugaku's mouth showed that he was in a good mood at this time. Uchiha Fugaku, who was in a good mood, couldn't help thinking of the bet he made with Kyosuke, and the thought of it gave him a headache. Originally, Uchiha Fugaku thought it was impossible for Kyosuke to get first place in this graduation test. But things are often unexpected, and Kyosuke not only finished first, but also won it cleanly and perfectly. Uchiha Fugaku hesitates. Do you really have the heart to let Kyosuke give up majoring in his family's blood lineage, Sharingan, with fire style, really agree with him to practice non-mainstream taijutsu? Although Kyosuke's performance on the field just now is enough to prove his talent and physical skills, but, in the end, Uchiha Fugaku sighed helplessly. Well, since he's already agreed to that bet, then, let Kyosuke leave it to himself. Hearing Uchiha Fugaku's compliments, Sarutobi Hiruzen shook his head involuntarily. In the competition just now, who was stronger and who was weaker? Which is better or worse? Anyone with a discerning eye can easily see it. Uchiha Kyosuke's excellent physical skills are beyond doubt, and he is indeed a physical genius. Compared with this child, Asuma is still more than a little bit worse. Third generation sighed inwardly. Alas, Uchiha Kyosuke. Thinking of this child, third Hokage subconsciously picked up his cigarette stick and took a puff, then left silently. Konoha Village, a kebab shop. Kyosuke walked out of the yakiniku restaurant very satisfied, accompanied Rin and Hong. Huh, I'm so full. Kyosuke patted his stretched stomach and stretched comfortably. I have to say that the taste of this barbecue restaurant in Konoha is amazing. Of course, if it is accompanied by some drinks, it will be even better. But in the village, it is forbidden for minors to drink alcohol. Although Kyosuke joked about asking Rin and Hong to eat dinner, Kyosuke paid in the end. What are you kidding? Eating with girls are too cute lowly. How dare they invite them? Moreover, as the young master of the Uchiha family, Kyosuke has never been short of money. Kyosuke-kun, if you continue to eat like this, you will definitely become a big fat man in the future. Lin covered her mouth and looked at Kyosuke, who was suffocating. And Hong next to Lin can't help thinking that if Kyosuke really eats into a fat man in the future, Kyosuke will look chubby at that time. Thinking of this, Hong also couldn't help but covered her mouth and laughed. Rin, actually, I'd really like to see what it would look like if Kyosuke turned into a fat man. Giggle. Red. Agree? Why don't we just call Kyosuke Fatty-kun in the future? Seeing Rin and Hong's cute expressions, Kyosuke couldn't help but laugh. The two little girls, Lin and Hong, are both rare treasure girls. It's no wonder that Uchiha Obito is crazy about Lin and even wants to destroy the whole world. Such a kind, innocent, and lovely girl is really rare. The innocence is amazing without a bit of a snack machine. Even if Kyosuke had traveled through for a few years, he couldn't help but be moved by her innocence and couldn't help but want to protect her. As for Hong, she has been a beautiful embryo since she was a child. Not to mention she has the same innocence and kindness as Lin, and it is even more incredible when she grows up. These two little girls are worthy of Kyosuke's protection. It's impossible to eat fat. It's impossible to eat fat in this life. Kyosuke laughed. Kyosuke follows the path of Taijutsu, which consumes a lot of energy every day, so his appetite is also great. But I think it's okay to eat and become fat in the future. Anyway, Lin and Hong won't dislike me for being fat, right? As soon as Kyosuke said these words, both Harano Rin and Yuhika were blushing, and they lowered their heads, not daring to look at Kyosuke. Here we go again. Seriously, Kyosuke-kun always says such inexplicable and misleading things. Although Yuan Yilin and Yu Hihong are still little girls, people in this era are generally relatively precocious, especially girls. Besides, girls are very sensitive emotionally. Kyosuke has a good impression on them both. Rin and Hong know it. But it definitely didn't achieve the kind of love between men and women they thought. Chapter 20. After eating the barbecue, and then Kyosuke sent Lin and Hong back home, it was not too early, and Kyosuke was ready to go home. As the sun sets, the entire Konoha village is shrouded in dusk, and a flock of returning birds fly by in the distant sky, which feels a bit peaceful. Kyosuke walked towards the territory of the Uchiha clan. Walking to the entrance of the Uchiha clan, there are many ninjas of the Uchiha clan standing guard at the door. On the walls on both sides of the entrance, there are flame fans that symbolize the Uchiha clan, exuding the aura of a majestic family. Although it is not yet night, the Uchiha territory is already full of lights, and it is bright, showing its prosperity. To be honest, the current Uchiha family is truly the #1 wealthy family in Konoha, and even the Hyuga family and the Sarutobi family are no match for the Uchiha family. Although the largest family in Konoha today is the Senju family, since the death of first Hokage and second Hokage, the Senju family has gradually declined. The Senju family is now just the #1 family in Konoha. Ah, isn't this Kyosuke-sama? I heard that, Kyosuke-sama, you not only passed the Genin test, but you also defeated 3rd Hokage's son and got the first place in the actual combat test. Well done. You are indeed the younger brother of the patriarch. Many people on the street saw Uchiha Kyosuke and greeted him with smiles. The Uchiha clan is a proud and conceited clan, and their clan advocates great strength, as well as the powerful bloodline boundary of their own clan, Sharingan. Before, Kyosuke stubbornly majored in physique, and was once called an alternative of the Uchiha family by the outside world, which caused strong dissatisfaction with the Uchiha family. If it wasn't for Kyosuke's special status, and there was a patriarch elder brother, maybe someone would make a fuss about it. Although the people of the Uchiha clan treat Uchiha Kyosuke with courtesy on the surface, they have little respect in their hearts. But it's different now. Today, Uchiha Kyosuke, the younger brother of Patriarch Uchiha, defeated Sarutobi Asuma, the son of 3rd Hokage, at the ninja school, and successfully took the first place in the Genin school's actual combat test, which has spread throughout the Uchiha family. Kyosuke won the first place in the graduation practical assessment, which means that he is the best among the students graduating from this ninja school. What's more, among the students who graduated from this ninja school, There is third Hokage's son, Sarutobi Asuma, who was known as a ninjutsu genius and was defeated by the younger brother of the Uchiha patriarch. Uchiha Kyosuke's younger brother, Uchiha Kyosuke, is honoring the Uchiha clan. In an instant, the people of the Uchiha family felt extremely proud, and their attitude towards Uchiha Kyosuke was naturally respectful. Kyosuke-sama, you are doing well. Kyosuke-sama, you've worked hard. To be honest, Kyosuke didn't like the attitude of the Uchiha clan, but he understood. There are not too many feelings in the adult world, there are only interests. Fortunately, Kyosuke doesn't care about this either. After all, this is life, this is society, and this is the complicated way of life. Cough cough. Hello comrades. Comrades have worked hard. Kyosuke waved his hand, left these words, and walked towards the center of the Uchiha domain, the home of the Uchiha clan chief. The people present were all stunned when they heard it. I walked along the main street and returned to my mansion. I am back. At about 10 o'clock in the evening, when Kyosuke was yawning after taking a shower and preparing to rest, his cheap old brother came back. Yo, brother came back so late. Don't forget our bet today, I won. Don't worry about my physical skills in the future. Looking at Kyosuke so evasive, Uchiha Fugaku was speechless. Kyosuke, you can't think about it for a while. After all our families. Although he lost the bet, Uchiha Fugaku still wanted to persuade Kyosuke. But before Uchiha Fugaku could finish speaking, Kyosuke yawned a few times and went back to the room, interrupting. It's getting late, brother. I have to rest. You should go to bed earlier, bye. Uchiha Fugaku looked helplessly at Kyosuke, who was so angry that he could not pay for his life, and could only follow Kyosuke's wishes. However, he still has something to explain to his younger brother. Kyosuke, wait a minute. Don't go back to the room. I have something to tell you. What's the matter? If you still want me to practice ninjutsu or something, then I'm sorry, brother. You should save some energy. Uchiha Fugaku couldn't help but smile bitterly. The previous bet was that I lost. I promised not to interfere with your practice of physique in the future. However, I have other things to explain to you. Chapter 21. Anything else to tell? After hearing that, Kyosuke stopped walking back to the room. At this time, under normal circumstances, the cheap old man himself has more important things to discuss with himself. What? Kyosuke asked curiously. Kyosuke, first of all, congratulations on your graduation. Uchiha Fugaku said to Kyosuke with a serious face. That's what I said. But thank you anyway, bro. Kyosuke didn't expect that his cheap brother would come out like this when he came up, and he felt a little embarrassed. However, Kyosuke was really moved. Over the years, his brother's care and love for him has been seen in his eyes. There is no doubt that Uchiha Fugaku is definitely a very qualified big brother. Kyosuke, I have already found your instructor. Uchiha Fugaku said calmly. Find it? Who? Kyosuke turned around curiously, not knowing which teacher my brother was looking for him. After all, after this, I will be doing tasks in separate classes, and I will definitely get along with the instructor for a long time. At this time, it is better to know who it is. I just don't know what is the origin of the instructor that this cheap old man personally helped him find. Uchiha Fugaku looked at Kyosuke calmly and said slowly, Orochimaru. Who? Orochimaru? Kyosuke looked confused. It's not that he didn't think about who the instructor would be. Maybe he arranged for an elite jonin to come. But Kyosuke was unexpectedly Orochimaru, one of the Sannin. This, my own cheap brother, doesn't look simple. I didn't expect him to be so close to Orochimaru. Kyosuke looked at the stiff-faced brother in front of him with some surprise. Not normal, very abnormal. There must be a lot of articles here. Orochimaru is now third Hokage's disciple. Logically speaking, he belongs to the Hokage faction and is naturally opposed to the Uchiha clan. But tonight Uchiha Fugaku said that the instructor for Kyosuke was Orochimaru, so it's so unusual. You seem surprised? Uchiha Fugaku asked. Uchiha Kyosuke nodded. It's a bit surprising, after all. Orochimaru is one of Konoha Sannin. It's settled. You should rest early. Uchiha Fugaku turned and left without explaining. Looking at the back of Uchiha Fugaku leaving, Uchiha Kyosuke thought. It seems that his cheap brother should have come together with Orochimaru. Recently, Kyosuke has also heard that the third generation is about to abdicate and choose the fourth generation Hokage. If his brother supports Orochimaru being elected as the fourth Hokage, then it all makes sense. After all, there are a lot of good candidates in the election of the fourth generation Hokage this time. Not to mention Orochimaru, and the princess of the Konoha Senju clan, Senju Tsunade, and Jiraiya, and the excellent apprentice of Jiraiya, the golden glitter Namikaze Minato. Even, there is Konoha's old force, Danzo of Umbu. TSK, I didn't expect my instructor to be Orochimaru. Now it becomes interesting. To be honest, Kyosuke also wanted to get to know Orochimaru, the famous scientist of Konoha and one of the Saiyans. However, in the future, you have to be careful with Orochimaru, and you have to beware of him at all times. After all, no one knows if Orochimaru will suddenly bite back. Silent all night. Early in the morning, Konoha number 98 training ground. Ding, the system prompts. The daily task is 5,000 positive punches, 5,000 deep squats, and 20 kilometers of cross-country with a 50 kilograms load. The task is completed. Get quest reward, 5 quest points, a crisp voice resounded in Uchiha Kyosuke's mind. After Kyosuke completed his daily tasks, he was excited to try the entry-level armament haki he got yesterday. Armament haki can improve defense and attack power, it acts like invisible armor, and can also evolve into attack power. Feeling the familiarity of his body with armament haki, Kyosuke could not help clenching his fists. Armed, hardened. As Kyosuke's voice fell, the top of his fist slowly turned black. In an instant, Kyosuke could clearly feel the power in his hardened fist, a little stronger than usual. Bah! Kyosuke clenched his armament haki with his fists covered, and slammed down the sturdy tree nearly 1 meter next to him. Boom! The 1 meter thick tree was instantly smashed by Kyosuke and snapped. Looking at the power of his blow, Kyosuke was satisfied. Not bad, not bad. If he didn't use the armament haki to break the tree with a lot of force, then after attaching the armament haki, he can break the tree with only 5 or 6 minutes of force. The power has actually doubled. Then if you bless armament haki on Liashian Shattering Fist, wouldn't that power be more pervert? Moreover, after this experiment, Kyosuke knows that his current strength has at least reached the level of elite chunin. You know, this is just the entry-level armament haki. If Kyosuke cultivates armament haki's proficiency to master, grandmaster, master, ultimate, or even beyond, when it reaches these levels, wouldn't the power of it increase exponentially? Thinking of this, Kyosuke couldn't help but heat up. Chapter 22. It seemed that he had to hurry up and raise armament haki's proficiency. Fortunately, Kyosuke has a permanent buff, Soul of Taishu. Taishu's training income increases by 1,000%. Without further ado, Kyosuke is slowly getting acquainted with Master Armament Haki. Time passed slowly and unknowingly. The soft sun slowly rises from the east, and the warm sunlight illuminates Konoha village. The training time passed quickly, and it was time for Kyosuke to go back. Today is the day when the ninja school graduates, and he has to go back to the ninja school. On the way back, Kyosuke solved the breakfast by the way. From today onwards, he doesn't have the loving breakfast that tastes like home. Alas, it's a pity. After breakfast, Kyosuke made a special trip home to take a shower, and finally walked towards the ninja school unhurriedly. When Kyosuke came to the class, sure enough, the whole class was only missing himself, and the teachers in the class were already standing on the podium. Seeing Uchiha Kyosuke at the door, the teacher on the podium said helplessly, "Kyosuke-kun, why are you late at this time?" "Aha, I'm sorry, teacher. In fact, I met a sister who was injured on the way. It was very serious. I had to go and help her," Kyosuke replied with a smile. The teacher couldn't help but be speechless. The reason for being late for the past 5 years has always been the same, either helping the injured sister or helping the old grandmother. You can make an excuse anyway. Kyosuke entered the classroom and sat in his unique seat under the admiring gazes of the students in the class. In yesterday's graduation test, after Kyosuke defeated Asuma with his crushing strength and won the first place, his status in the class instantly increased. When Kyosuke first appeared in the classroom, 2 eyes never left him. When Kyosuke sat down, the 2 eyes at the same table were on him. Lin stared at Kyosuke with her big watery eyes and smiled. Sure enough, Kyosuke-kun still hasn't broken the record of not being late. Kyosuke smiled. He didn't mean it. He was used to it. "Kyosuke-kun, here, this is your forehead protector." Lin handed the ninja forehead protector to Kyosuke. The teacher had already awarded the forehead protector to Lin and the others before he came. "Thanks, Rin." Kyosuke took the forehead protector and tied it to his forehead at will. "By the way, Rin, Hong, are you divided into classes now? Have you been divided?" Kyosuke asked the 2 women beside him curiously. Hong shook her head and said softly to Kyosuke, "Not yet. The whole class is waiting for you, Kyosuke." "Isn't there a class yet?" "Well, so." Then Kyosuke communicated with Rin and Hong again, and it was all irrelevant. At this time, The teacher on the podium finally waited until the number of people in the class was all, picked up the group list, and began to prepare to announce it. At this time, the whole class was silent, and the students held their breaths. They all hoped that they could be assigned to a good group. A good group, with good teachers and good teammates, is a fantastic start. Lin and Hong were no exception. They clenched their hands nervously, thinking in their hearts, if possible, it's better to be in a group with Kaisa. First shift, Saratobi Asuma, Might Guy, Shizune. Asuma was a little disappointed to hear that he was not in a group with the bonus. However, when he looked up and saw Uchiha Kyosuke beside Hong, he remembered the scene of his failure yesterday. Second shift, Uchiha Obito, Harano Rin, and Kakashi. When the teacher on the podium announced these names, Obito in his seat instantly felt like he had won the first prize, grinning excitedly and almost jumping up. Speaking of which, Obito's physique is also resistant to beatings. Yesterday, he was beaten so badly by Asuma in the competition with Asuma. He didn't expect to look much better after a night. And Lin heard that she was not in a group with Kyosuke, and her brows couldn't help but have a look of gloom. Involuntarily, Rin quietly glanced at Kyosuke next to him, thinking of something, and then Rin's cheeks quickly flushed. Lin turned around quickly, and she thought to herself, "What's wrong with me? How can I feel disappointed? Do you yourself?" The 8th class, Yuhi read, and the foot are the same, Shiranui Shinjian. Similarly, when Hong heard that he was not in a group with Uchiha Kyosuke, Hong's face also showed disappointment. If possible, Hong really hopes to be in the same group with Kyosuke. As the teachers on the podium read the list of groups one by one, in the end, the whole class was assigned, but Uchiha Kyosuke was left behind. Kyosuke, who knew the situation in advance, didn't care too much. However, Kyosuke doesn't care. It doesn't mean Rin and Hong who are beside him don't care. So Lin couldn't help raising her hand and took the initiative to ask the teacher on the podium, "Teacher, why isn't Kyosuke-kun's name in the group list? Did you forget it, teacher? Kyosuke classmate?" The teacher on stage glanced at Uchiha Kyosuke and explained, "The group of Kyosuke-kun has been confirmed." Then teacher, who are Kyosuke-kun's team members? Hong asked involuntarily. Chapter 23. The teacher on the podium hesitated. To be honest, he was stunned when he first got the list, but after receiving the above notification, he realized that it was the adult who nominated him to be Uchiha Kyosuke's instructor. Uchiha Kyosuke's performance in the graduation test was really dazzling, and it was understandable to get the adult's attention. "Teacher, who are Kyosuke-kun's team members?" Hong continued. "This is..." The teacher on the podium pondered for a while, but before he could finish speaking, a figure suddenly appeared at the door of the classroom. A young man in his 20s, with yellow hair and blue eyes, was standing at the door. The teacher on the podium also noticed him and quickly said with a smile, "So it's Minato. Why are you here so early?" It was Namake's Minato who came. Namake's Minato said with his gentle, sunny smile, "I'm sorry, Teacher Shanggong, for disturbing you. It's okay. I'm done here too." Namake's Minato nodded, then looked into the classroom and said, "Uchiha Obito, Harano Rin, I'm your instructor Namake's Minato. Please come with me." Lin, who was not assigned to a group with Uchiha Kyosuke, glanced at the table next to her and said in a low voice, "Kyosuke-kun, I'll go first." Kyosuke smiled and said to Lin, "Go Lin. I'll find you when I have time." "Yeah." Lin nodded. Kyosuke's words made Lin feel better. At this moment, another figure suddenly appeared at the door of the classroom. This man has long black hair, long golden pupils, purple eyeshadow extending to the nose, pale skin, with a sinister aura. He is Orochimaru. As soon as Orochimaru appeared, there was a lot of discussion in the classroom. "Ah, it's Orochimaru-sama. How did he come here? It would be great if Orochimaru-sama was my instructor." "You think too much." Namake's Minato, who came to the door of the classroom first, saw Orochimaru and couldn't help but ask for it. Minato he did not expect to meet Orochimaru here at the same time. However, Orochimaru, as Uchiha Kyosuke's instructor, knew the news to Minato. Namake's Minato gave Orochimaru a soft, sunny smile and said, "Sir Orochimaru, you are here too?" Orochimaru glanced at Namake's Minato. His gloomy expression did not change, and his voice was hoarse. "Minato?" Orochimaru entered the classroom directly, glanced around for a week, then fell on Uchiha Kyosuke and said hoarsely, "Uchiha Kyosuke, come with me." After saying that, Orochimaru turned around and left. Seeing such a cold Orochimaru, Kyosuke was a little speechless. This Uncle Snake is really cold. "Kyosuke-kun, Is your instructor really Orochimaru-sama? Rin asked in surprise, blinking her big eyes. Kyosuke nodded. That's right. What? Lin and Hong both looked at Kyosuke with great admiration and joy. I didn't expect Kyosuke-kun's instructor to be Orochimaru, which is really good. When the surrounding students learned that Uchiha Kyosuke's instructor was actually Orochimaru, one of the Sanins, they all looked at Uchiha Kyosuke with envy. My god. I didn't expect Uchiha Kyosuke's instructor to be Oroki-sama. You must know that Orochimaru-sama is one of the Sannin. Ah, damn. So envious. Don't be envious. If you get the first place in the graduation combat, it is estimated that Orochimaru-sama will accept you as a disciple. That's fine, but I'm still envious. Lin Hong, I'll find you when I have time. Kyosuke patted the second girl's little hand, then got up and left the classroom. Behind him, there are eyes of incomparable envy and jealousy. Kyosuke, who left the classroom, followed behind Orochimaru and looked at Orochimaru not far ahead. Kyosuke was speechless. It would be too irresponsible for Orochimaru to be his own instructor. If it weren't for his physical skills, he would be fine. Otherwise, he would have been lost. Konoha number 83 Training Ground. Orochimaru came to a clearing and stopped. Kyosuke, who followed, complained. I said, Teacher, we don't need to come to such a remote place. To be honest, although Kyosuke finds it interesting to have Orochimaru as his instructor, Kyosuke also has to be wary of him. After all, who knows if Orochimaru will turn his face and do something dangerous the next moment. Orochimaru turned slowly, staring at Uchiha Kyosuke, the rising genius of Taijutsu in the Uchiha clan, in front of him. Looking at Uchiha Kyosuke, Orochimaru said slowly, Kyosuke-kun, what kind of Taijutsu did you use yesterday? Did you create it yourself? However, Kyosuke did not answer Orochimaru's question. Instead, he spread his hands and asked directly. I said, Teacher, it's not good for you to ask me these questions as soon as you come up. After all, as my instructor, we have just met, so let's introduce each other no matter what. Chapter 24. Looking at such a direct Orochimaru, Kyosuke guessed that if Orochimaru leads the squad in the future, it must be different from other groups. For now, Kyosuke is the only one in his class, and the other class members are basically 3 in a group. Introduction? After Uchiha Kyosuke said this, Orochimaru realized that it was the first time he had met the Uchiha physique geek in front of him. And the introduction is also a characteristic basic ceremony when Konoha is divided into classes. That's right. Kyosuke nodded and said casually, it's like names, hobbies, likes, dislikes, future dreams, etc. Orochimaru couldn't help but be in a trance after hearing this. Do you want to introduce? I think I graduated from ninja school and was led by my teacher. This scene seemed somewhat familiar to him. Orochimaru, there are no dislikes, hobbies. Having said that, Orochimaru was silent for a while, and then looked at Uchiha Kyosuke. This is the same as what he didn't say. Kyosuke suddenly regretted letting Orochimaru be his instructor. Alas, if I had known this, Kyosuke might as well have been in a group with Rin or Hong, so that he wouldn't be bored. However, Kyosuke also knows that Orochimaru is such a person. He doesn't talk a lot, so he likes to keep silent, and secretly likes to mess with those shady experiments. Orochimaru-sensei is really willful. Kyosuke shrugged his shoulders, unconcerned, and began to introduce himself. My name is Uchiha Kyosuke. Do you have any hobbies? Well, I like to practice body arts, and I like to roast and eat barbecued meat. It would be even better if there is wine. Of course, I also like to have a wonderful encounter with the beautiful big sister. As for the annoying things, I hate the troublesome things. A dream for the future, to pursue the limits of physical art. Pursuing the limits of physical fitness? When he heard Uchiha Kyosuke's words, Orochimaru fixed his gaze on Kyosuke. In some ways, Kyosuke's ideals are somewhat similar to what he aspires to. And Orochimaru pursues all kinds of ninjutsu and becomes Hokage. So, did you create all the physical techniques you used yesterday? Orochimaru asked slowly again. Kyosuke did not directly answer Orochimaru's words, but instead looked worried. Mr. Orochimaru, your question makes me very embarrassed. After all, this involves my personal privacy. But it's not that I can't talk to you. After all, you are my teacher. Orochimaru. He looked at the younger brother of the Uchiha clan chief in silence, and for a moment, Orochimaru suddenly had the urge to punch Kyosuke. Seeing the gloomy Orochimaru, Kyosuke replied, That's right. I created those taijutsu by myself. Then, Kyosuke sighed and said, Hey, I'm ashamed to say it. It's been several years since I practiced Taishu, and I only created these tricks myself. I don't think my talent is very good. After finishing speaking, Kyosuke still looked ashamed and reminded Orochimaru. By the way, teacher Orochimaru, you must not spread the word about my own ninjutsu. Because you are my teacher, I told you with all my heart. Orochimaru ignored Uchiha Kyosuke's tirade and only noticed one sentence. It's his own ninjutsu. If it is true, then the younger brother of the Uchiha clan chief in front of him is really a rare physique genius. However, compared to ninjutsu, Taijutsu has its limits after all. Teacher Orochimaru, Kyosuke said, looking at Orochimaru in deep thought. What's the matter? Orochimaru asked. Kyosuke saw Orochimaru's expressionless and cold stinky face, which was somewhat similar to his cheap brother, and he smiled. Teacher Orochimaru is so curious about my physical skills, are you envious? Do you want to learn? Yes, I will teach you. After hearing this, Orochimaru was silent for a while, and directly refused. No need. Then Orochimaru glanced at Uchiha Kyosuke with a complicated expression and turned to leave. That's it for today. I'll let you know if anything happens in the future. Hey, Mr. Orochimaru, isn't that the way the class-setting process is done? Don't we have to grab the bell or something, and we won't do the task? These things are not necessary. After speaking, Orochimaru went straight away. Chapter 25. Looking at Orochimaru who was leaving, Kyosuke was really speechless, and his instructor was too irresponsible. It wasn't long before we met for the first time, and he said a few words, didn't teach himself anything, and then just flashed. He also said that he would inform himself later if something happened. That means if it's okay, don't worry about it. This attitude is completely self-indulgence, no matter what. This Orochimaru, compared to the unreliable Jiraiya, how do you feel that Orochimaru is more unreliable? Uchiha Kyosuke complained. Forget it, it's better this way, and I don't have to waste my time on boring things. Kyosuke, who had nothing to do, looked at the time. It was quite early, and the training started. In the following period, Orochimaru, an extremely irresponsible teacher, appeared only occasionally a few times to guide Kyosuke. As for those D-class missions, Orochimaru never took Kyosuke to do them. Kyosuke is also enjoying his leisure time. The days pass like this. Usually, Kyosuke mainly focuses on physical training. In his spare time, he goes to Lin and Hong, two cute loli, to eat and chat with them, and then practice. It is worth noting that after Kyosuke's unremitting efforts to practice during this period, his armament haki has become more and more proficient. Konoha Village 88 Training Ground. Here, Namikaze Minato's small team is training. Kyosuke, are you looking for Rin again? Namikaze Minato, with dazzling golden hair, looked at Uchiha Kyosuke standing on the tree with a gentle face. Aha, hello Minato-sensei. Uchiha Kyosuke, who was standing on the tree, looked down at Namikaze Minato and smiled. During this time, Kyosuke went to Lin and Hong when he was bored after training, but Kyosuke was a little unlucky. Lin and the others were basically not free. They were either training or doing tasks. I hope it won't be so coincidental this time. Minato-sensei, your class won't have to do those boring D-class tasks again today? Kyosuke asked. No assignment today. Namikaze Minato shook his head and said, today Lin and the others are going to train. Kyosuke came to look for Rin whenever he was free, so Namikaze Minato got to know Uchiha Kyosuke. That's why I came at a bad time. It's a pity for Kyosuke, since this has to be trained again. It is estimated that Lin can't be invited out. But Kyosuke also understands that Lin, who has just become a genin at this time, has a lot to learn. Unlike himself, he is completely free range, and after training, he wanders everywhere. Kyosuke looked around. Not far away, Lin was training under a tall tree. Kyosuke jumped down and walked towards Rin unhurriedly. Namikaze Minato looked at Uchiha Kyosuke, who was leaving. To be honest, he was still a little curious about this Uchiha clan's physique geek. After all, some time ago, Uchiha Kyosuke defeated Asuma in the graduation assessment and won the first place, but it has been circulated in Konoha Village for a long time. Lin, so serious. Kyosuke stepped forward. Kyosuke-kun, why are you here? Lin, who was training hard, suddenly heard Kyosuke's voice. Her big watery eyes instantly glowed, and she turned around in surprise. I'm done practicing. I'll come to see you when I'm okay. Kyosuke smiled. Hearing Kyosuke's words, Rin couldn't help laughing. Kyosuke's instructor is Orochimaru, one of the three, and he has a completely casual attitude towards Kyosuke. Kyosuke has complained about her and Hong before. At that time, Lin and Hong were envious of Kyosuke for a while after hearing about it. Then, Lin looked at Kyosuke and hesitated. I'm sorry, Kyosuke-kun, our class has to train today, so Today, the teacher of Lin's class, Namikaze Minato, asked them to complete the training task of climbing a tree and accurately controlling chakra as soon as possible. But obviously, this task is still very difficult for Lin, because Lin has not fully learned it yet. Lin was a little disappointed. She felt that she was useless, and she still couldn't learn it after so long. Don't worry about that. Actually, I came to look for Lin, and I also wanted to supervise whether you were slack in training, Lin. Kyosuke shook his head and said solemnly. Rin was amused by Kyosuke. Lin held back her smile and said to Kyosuke, then supervisor, do you think I'm being lazy? Kyosuke said with a stern face, according to my preliminary observation, Lin's training attitude is quite serious. But the training effect has not improved much, and it seems that there is still room for improvement. Hearing what Kyosuke said, Lin couldn't help but blushed and lowered her head a little embarrassedly. Kyosuke-kun, I know I'm stupid, If you want to make fun of me, just laugh. Kyosuke smiled and shook his head. Really a silly, cute little girl. He stepped forward and grabbed Lin's little hand, which was still wet and full of sweat, and Kyosuke didn't care.
Thanks for watching. You can find the next videos in the playlist linked in the info card, directly on my channel, or right here on the screen. And as always, if you have any feedback, feel free to share it in the comments too.